My mother... she just passed.
Last year in October, we covered an entire month of vampire movies, and the hits keep coming. In January, Robert Eggers released his long-awaited gothic horror, Nosferatu, an adaptation of the 1922 German silent horror film, which was in itself an unlicensed adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. The story of Dracula has been told over and over again, including by Coppola in Bram Stoker's Dracula. We also talked about Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn, a pretty unique vampire film, written by Quentin Tarantino. Tonight we're going to talk about the newest vampire film, Ryan Coogler's Sinners, which the director of Black Panther and Creed wrote, produced, and directed as a passion project. Coogler wrote a letter about his inspirations when writing the screenplay that he reached to, and Robert Rodriguez, Coppola, and Tarantino are on that list. And it's been pointed out a bunch that this movie does share some similarities with From Dusk. It's also inspired by the Stephen King book Salem's Lot. Sinners stars Michael B. Jordan, Miles Caton, Wunmi Mosaku, Hailee Steinfield, Helen Hu, Yao, Delroy Lindo, and Jack O'Connell. Michael B. Jordan, who was in both Black Panther as Killmonger and Creed as Adonis Johnson, has a long-standing collaborative relationship with Ryan Coogler, going back to Coogler's directorial debut, Fruitvale Station, where he starred as Oscar Grant in a dramatization of true events, telling the story of Grant's last 24 hours before he was shot by a rapid transit cop while being detained.
You have my cell phone?
Yeah, I got your badge number, bro.
I said, shut the fuck up and put that phone away.
Yeah, all right. Worry about why? What you trying to hide, bro?
You keep these assholes secured. I'm gonna check the train for witnesses.
In Sinners, Michael B. Jordan plays two brothers, Smoke and Stack, the Smokestack Twins, World War I veterans who left their home in the Mississippi Delta, where you're more than likely, even when this movie takes place in 1932, going to waste away working as a sharecropper at the cotton fields if you're a black man, to work as hired muscle for the Chicago outfit, eventually growing tired of the gangster life. They've stolen money from the Chicago gangsters and returned home to start their lives over. They pick up their little cousin Sammy, the preacher's boy, played by Miles Caton, whose dad is a local preacher, and who loves to play the blues on the guitar that his father believes is supernatural and the devil's music. The Smokestack Twins have planned to set up a juke joint, a bar for the black residents of their hometown of Clarksdale, along with their friends, a Chinese couple who own the local store, Grace and Bo, who they use to supply the place, and Smoke's estranged wife Annie, who is a witch doctor and faith healer.
Oh, I'm obsessed with Irish folk music. My kids are obsessed with it. Look, my first name is Irish. I think it's not known how much how much crossover there is between, like, you know, African American culture and Irish culture, and how much that stuff's loved in our community. You know, it was very important that our vampire, you know, our master vampire of this movie was unique and as specific as the situation was. You know, it was important to me that he was old, but also that he came from a time that pre-existed these racial definitions, so that he would be extremely odd, you know, and it would all seem odd to him, but also that he would see it for what it was and offer a sweet deal, you know.
At the same time, a strange white man arrives at the home of a Klan member and his wife, begging to come into the house because he's being chased by Choctaw Indians and to not listen to them whatever they say. The Choctaw warn that he's a dangerous man and must be killed, but they don't listen because they're literally Klan members. Well, it turns out he's dangerous because he's an ancient vampire from Ireland who devours the blood of the couple and turns them into his first vampire converts. Ryan Coogler has explained that he picked an Irish vampire, first because he was researching vampires and learned about a story from Ireland about the vampire Arbitok, who it has been theorized was one of Bram Stoker's inspirations for Dracula. Also because an ancient Irish vampire would not understand the social and legal constructs of race existing in the Jim Crow South, which plays a big role when the vampires who are white show up at a black bar where they're legally barred. The Irish vampire Remick walks around as transient musicians and preachers used to do, singing Irish folk songs preaching the gospel of fellowship and love. Remick, who is a kind of Killmonger type figure, because like Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger in Black Panther, Remick's gospel of fellowship and love honestly sounds a lot better than working in the cotton fields as a sharecropper. You get eternal life, no racial distinctions, and these vampires all share a hive mind, and anything they know, you all know. But you have to invite the vampires in. Coogler also explained he loves Irish folk music while writing and researching the historical part of the film. He learned about the Irish, Chinese, Choctaw, all of these other ethnic groups who lived in the Mississippi Delta along with the white planters and black sharecroppers and contributed to the culture and society as well. Although their stories are not as well known, and he wanted us to know about them too. They all influenced the culture, including the development of blues.
You know, I never felt like it belonged to me. It felt like it was music for, you know, for older people. But he passed away in 2015. And I was devastated. I was away from home as I normally was, making a film called Creed. when I got the news. And after he passed, I started to listen to old blues records to kind of remind myself of him. And if I did it enough, I would feel like he was there with me, almost like I was conjuring his spirit. And the base of the idea started with that. And when I started to do my research on blues music, specifically the Delta blues music that came out of that Mississippi Delta, I discovered that, you know, there's a firm argument to be made that this art form, the Delta blues, is our country's most important contribution to global popular culture. You know, I think it's probably our most important artistic contribution to the world. And it was such a profound discovery.
Music is a very important part of this film. Sammy's Blues calls forth ancient spirits from the past and future, transcending time in a pretty beautiful sequence. With everything from early blues in the Delta to hip-hop, jazz, soul, R&B, all as a continuum, contrasted but in some ways even similar to the Irish folk songs of the vampire. The supernatural, religion, and community all mingle here too. The famed blues guitarist, Buddy Guy, is used for a cameo as the old version of Sammy at the end. I found the ambivalence that this movie has towards Christianity interesting. Sammy is a preacher's boy, but his relationship to his father and the church is pretty strained, with the church being more of an oppressive force. And it's definitely not something like The Exorcist, where after confronting the face of evil, the characters are some kind of reconversion. But spirituality is definitely not absent from the film, including the spirits of the dead and the future, called forth by the music. The music is a spiritually transcendent element, blues in particular. One of my favorite lines that stuck out to me watching the movie again: Sammy attempts to stop the vampire using the Lord's Prayer, which then gets all the vampires repeating the Lord's Prayer. And the vampire remix says, "When those men took my father's land, they forced those words onto us too. I hate those men, but the words still bring me comfort." Another line by the blues man, Delta Slim, says, "Blues is ours. It came from us. It wasn't forced on us like Christianity." I like that ambivalence about religion, understood as a tool of the oppressor that still brings comfort to people who are oppressed. I think that nuance allows sinners to rise above other vampire movies. Warner Brothers negotiated a deal with Ryan Coogler to make this film for $90 million and to give first dollar gross, which allows Ryan Coogler to get some of the money back before they get their full return, as well as giving him ownership of the film after 25 years. As well as showing their faith in his work, offering a wide release to start out instead of the more narrow releases that films often do to test out markets.
Go ahead. Admit to it.
Admit to what?
That you dead.
So you listening to this?
Before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Then hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Super chats are now open. If you have any pressing questions, send us a super chat, which helps me maintain the expenses for the show, which I am obligated by the rules of the Geneva Convention to stop everything and ask the panel. Another way to help us out is to become a patron and give us money every month. In exchange, you get access to all of our after parties, bonus content, and we'll tell you even more movies we watched recently. Patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. We have a Movie Night Extravaganza Discord. There's an invite link in the episode description, and we have a Letterboxd HQ account. So those are two more places to follow along with us. Okay, let me introduce the illustrious panel. Conan Neutron is the host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and the frontman for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. You can check out his music and hopefully buy some at neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends' latest album, The Way of the Neutron, is available on Bandcamp. Order it today. Kristina Oakes is a co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and a Twitch streamer. You can find her streaming at twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. All of her social media accounts are also at Cosmopolitics. She's on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and even occasionally on Letterboxd. I, of course, am your host who wants to bring you fellowship and love, Forrest Miller. I'm not going to lie, I'd much rather be a vampire than a sharecropper in the cotton fields.
Yeah, those are your options. I mean, like, where's the decision, really? There's no decision whatsoever. Yeah, it's like...
Dude, this movie was so fucking good. And I, like...
I've seen it 4 times.
I cracked up so hard, even, like, the first time I watched it, during all the times where the vampires had to come up with reasons why they need to be invited in.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And what's weird is I don't think, and it's crazy too that how they keep coming out with banger vampire movies after we do our vampire month, right? But but I don't think I've seen that, like in that way specifically of just like
Buffy the Vampire Slayer
in a movie, I should say.
Yeah,
that's and applied differently too. And in a way, it is a little From Dusk Till Dawn. right?
Yeah.
Like it's like From Dusk Till Dawn and Salem's Lot specifically as well. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Bandcamp Friday, buy my music. Thank you.
Yeah, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com.
Go buy it now.
Turn this off.
Thank you.
Turn this off, order music, and then come back and we'll still be talking about the movies.
We'll still be talking.
We actually have a
Records not that long.
question about our favorite Ryan Coogler film.
Okay,
in the
sure.
chat.
We can do that. Yeah. So first question for each of the panelists: where does Sinners rank on your list of Ryan Coogler movies that you have seen?
1.
All right, number 1 for Kristina. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's got to be number 1 for me too. I liked Black Panther. I came to see that late. I don't think I've sat down and watched Creed, but I've like watched parts of Creed.
Kidding.
One of those things where it's like I'm not a huge Rocky person. We've talked about.
You don't have to be. That's like the point of the movie.
I know, but I'm saying I'm saying it's
You're
not
not a boxer person.
It was you don't have to be. My guy, that is literally the point of the movie. And also, you don't have to be a fan of boxing or the Rocky franchise. Can I tell you, the first song on The Way of the Neutron, Who Dares, directly inspired by the movie Creed.
Yeah.
Now,
go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com.
Neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Go pick it up right now. Not even kidding. And actually, it was the video was originally going to be boxing theme. Borchardt was going to do it, but that fell apart. But it's amazing, and it's amazing the fact that like it wasn't. And I almost lost my shit when, pardon my French, when you said that like in Black Panther and then Creed, because he absolutely did not. Creed was like no one thought Creed was going to work.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, they didn't want to fund it. They're like, this guy's made one movie, like it was good, but this is like way different. But then when Sylvester Stallone signed, and they were like mad poor too when he made it. Like Fruitvale Station was like critically acclaimed, but you can take that critical acclaim down to the bank and they'll tell you, sir, this is not legal tender.
Yeah.
But so when he made that movie and Sylvester Stallone signed on, suddenly people were paying attention. But they didn't market it as like, hey, here's a continuation of the Rocky franchise at all, which is so smart because it allowed it to be its own story because it was Adonis' story anyway, which is honestly, that's how most people saw Michael B. Jordan in the first place too. I mean, folks saw Fruitvale Station.
Yep.
Great, but like for a larger movie audience, and it did very well because well enough that they made 2 sequels, neither of which are nearly as good. But I mean,
yeah. Well, so what I was saying though is I just like it's just not. I haven't sat down. I've seen like a bunch of the different clips from it. It's just not. I've just never sat down.
But you haven't actually seen it. Okay, so what I say is you're in for a treat because it is really, really good.
Yeah,
and it's not just good for a Rocky movie or good for a boxing movie. Yeah, it is really good. Now the other two are like. Those are good for a franchise boxing movie.
Yeah.
I hope that's it. I hope they don't make a 4th one. Like, it's kind of like, but it's something where Creed is like up there in that, like on its own, but like within the Rocky echelon, it's like OG Rocky Balboa, Creed.
Yeah.
That's probably the order.
I was at a
Black Panther.
I was at a party one time and I remember people were watching it.
I was going to give you my answer, but let's Forrest story instead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I'm going through the rankings. I like Fruitvale Station a lot.
I was building up to do my ranking, which is why Creed is first, followed by Sinners, and then Black Panther, and then everything else. So there you go. That was like the one sentence I was waiting to unleash.
Then it's Black Panther, then Creed, after Sinners.
Yeah, and Black Panther is great, and it's a great. It's like I think
I saw it in the theater,
but Creed is
out.
like badass. Like and Creed really. Rewards multiple watches as well. Okay, go ahead, Forrest. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I was like just at a party and I remember people were watching Creed and I was watching it, but then like you don't get the full extent of like a movie when you're like with a bunch of people at like a place and it's like it's not really the same thing as sitting down and watching it. I remember I came to Black Panther late because I don't know. I was going through like my like I'm gonna watch all the Marvel movies before. I think that's how I got superhero fatigue. Because when
you watch all of them,
when the movies got better, is when you got the fatigue.
When Civil War came out, I just had never. No, I just hadn't seen any of them. They didn't. I wasn't even interested in it. And then Civil War came out, and I saw it, and I was like, you know what, this is interesting. I'll watch as many of them as I can before, before Endgame and all that came out. And then I think I watched too many of them in a row. It's like I did the thing that you do where you wolf down candy.
But I think it's important to mention because Fruitvale Station wasn't like he got Black Panther after that. That would be an interesting story,
Yeah.
but that's not the story. The story was like he put his heart and soul into doing Creed to make, and to, on one hand, sort of do a next chapter of the Rocky franchise, but to tell a different kind of story. And nobody believed in it, but it worked. It worked, and it was a big hit, and that's what led him to be like, "Oh, maybe we should have this guy do Black Panther." Which, when they said they were doing a Black Panther movie, and you got to understand, this is before Marvel Cinematic Universe fatigue, et cetera, et cetera. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh wow, that's going to be big. Like that's going to be." People don't even realize, because Black Panther is a comic book character, has been around for forever, but that's a comic books.
Yeah.
As you know, something that like, you know, a lot of people have not seen. It's like, no, this is going to be really powerful. This is going to be a big deal. And then when Coogler was doing it, I'm like, oh, we're in for it.
Yeah, and as someone, I mean, I love pointing, like, you know, as a white person being in a theater with a predominantly black audience, seeing young boys, you know, looking at the screen, seeing a superhero that looked like them, represented them.
Representation, yeah.
It was just incredible, because you had little boys dressing up in Black Panther costumes. Like, I was like, this is why I like going to a movie that has a predominantly like audience of a minority group, because there's hardly any representation, especially in like superhero movies. Like, I mean, imagine Ryan Coogler could have done the new Blade.
Sure, if they ever actually do it. But it's worth noting too, I used to live in Fruitvale. Fruitvale Station was literally my BART station, and apparently I used to live right by Ryan Coogler, but I didn't know. I mean, I lived next door by a lot of people. He wasn't making movies at the time, but because I found that so astounding, because that was a huge, when that happened, that was a huge scandal. But it was a huge scandal for like a week, which is crazy now, because a week is like a month now, right? But but it was, then it just disappeared. I was like, wow, that sucks that there's gonna be no culpability for that's just gone. So when I heard that, like, oh, they're making a movie of it, I'm like, oh wow, that's crazy, but like that's cool. I'm there for it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's like,
but that was my neighborhood, dude.
Forrest Whitaker like produced it too, and it's like, you know, they had Octavia Spencer in it. Like, it's cool that I feel like that's the thing with like the solidarity between a lot of like black artists when they you know, like at least in the cinema world, it's like you know,
that representation.
Yeah, so like now that representation
together.
is your thing, it's like, yeah, like Forrest Whitaker produces your movie, and you get like, you know, A-list like top of the line actresses. They're like, I'm gonna, you know, give this young director a chance, and I think that's a really cool part.
Which is great. Yeah, that's a beautiful part of community. So getting back to Sinners, all I had known is that there's like Coogler's doing a vampire movie, and Michael B. Jordan plays two roles, and I'm like, all right, I'm already in. I've already bought the ticket. Let's go. Because it's so rare to see. Like, last time I can think of that was the third season of Fargo, where Ewan McGregor played he played brothers. He played the twins, which is, I think, where that's where he fell in love with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which relatable and understandable.
Cheating on his wife. Okay,
and she loved him when he had a paunch and his hairline receding in character.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. But like, I am fascinated by when a good actor or actress gets to play a dual role like that. Like, I think that's super interesting and cool. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I don't need to know anything about this. I bet it's just gonna be cool. And the nice thing is, I saw it real early on. Like, I feel like now everyone has takes. Everyone has like reporting back on what they saw and whatever. And like, I'm glad I watched it as early on as possible. Ironically, because we had just gotten back from Japan, I was like selling off some third grade music gear, like stuff I don't really need, right? So when I was pretty broke, so when I got the check for that, I deposited. I'm like, all right, this movie better be good, because this is like a seventh of what I just made off of selling these like old pedals.
Worth it.
But then to see music centered so artfully in this is like, oh, okay, I made the right decision, you know. Awesome.
I was so desperate to avoid spoilers that somehow my brain turned off, and I didn't even register the fact that Michael B. Jordan was going to play two characters, and it surprised me.
Well, and he plays them both so differently that, like, I had somehow forgotten. You know, I got a lot in my mind, man. But like, I was like,
I thought he had a twin.
I was like, is that? It's like, does he have a brother? Like, that guy looks.
Yeah, I had that. I somehow had avoided the spoilers, and I was like, wow, the other guy looks a lot like Michael B.
Jordan.
And then I started because I was like, oh, maybe it's like Martin Sheen and
Michael C. Jordan.
Michael C. Jordan, exactly.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen
there's
and
Michael C. Jordan. He's a big popular content creator on the internet.
Fantastic. Thanks for interrupting me on that. Joe Estevez, his brother, his twin brother, that if you ever see Martin Sheen or like hear him like doing a product that is like, why would Martin Sheen be voiceover for this product? They sound exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And so it's Joe Estevez. But he also will just like, he'll do anything. He was in the Too Short movie. As like an FBI agent. It was amazing. But it's like one of those things where it does happen, right? And like, and sometimes it's like, oh, that happens, and like one twin is, has a career and one kind of doesn't. Like Martin Sheen and Joe Estevez.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it looks so real.
Yeah, I mean, and that's props. Props to the filmmaker, props to Coogler. I think it did like a
he also manages. I think they do something prosthetic, or I don't know. Like I don't know exactly how they did it, but they made one of them look different enough that it kind of feels like you really are looking at two different.
Well, they and part of that's the performance. Like he moves differently. Different guys. They behave differently, and like I don't know. Like he's great. Michael B. Jordan is great. Like I said, I first saw him in Creed and went back to Fruitvale Station because I somehow wasn't aware of it. I was aware it came out, but I wasn't able to see it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I fucking lived in the neighborhood, but I mean, whatever.
I first saw him in The Wire as a kid. He was a kid.
Oh, is he really? Okay.
He's that Kid Wallace that's on the street corner that's selling
Yeah.
Well, I know he's been around.
He's so tiny in The Wire. He's like, yeah.
But as amazing as Creed is, obviously it was, being Killmonger that was like, every think piece in that year was like, was Killmonger right?
Yeah.
You know what fascinated me the most about this film? There was I didn't really see much promotion leading up to this film, and then when it get released, that's when everything came out. Like everyone was like, "Wow, this movie's so great!" Like, what? I didn't know much about it. Wow, that he is a baby there.
Yeah, he's so young in the one.
Wow,
so young in the one. What?
But it's totally you can tell it's him. Like it just looks.
Yeah, it's the same face and everything. But I remember like watching it and then watching Black Panther later and being like, "Oh shit, that's the kid from The Wire."
Right.
Yeah. But did you guys feel like there was not much promotion leading up to the movie, and then once the box office numbers came out, people were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it kind of exploded.
Yeah, I mean, there was. I saw a few things that he did with Hailee, but it was not a whole lot of like doing the hot dubs, dual, eating hot wings and doing Truth or Dare or whatever, like stuff like that. But I never really saw them like.
I did Truth or Dare with Hailee Steinfield. Just saying, but
I like how part of promoting a movie now is just eating hot wings. Like
I love that. I love it. It's so fun to see them just cry and want to throw up. It's great.
Well, I feel like so I definitely saw a preview for Sinners twice. I'm trying to remember. I haven't seen that many movies in the theaters in the past 6 months, so it shouldn't be that hard to figure out.
Nosferatu,
I think one was Nosferatu and one was Companion, I want to say.
Yeah.
Both of which are like, that's a great movie to do a preview for this for,
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see like an avalanche of promotion about it. It just was all word of mouth of like, oh man, Sinners is really good. Have you seen it? And then of course immediately somebody says something that's good. Oh, actually, I think it has some major problems with it. Shut up.
I knew someone said it was boring, and I'm like, really? The sequence, sequence of music through time was
so dumb. I mean, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it's the first truly, just no caveat, deeply entertaining movie of the year for me.
Yeah,
and I say that like I enjoyed Mickey 17, I enjoyed Companion, I enjoyed Novocaine. I've seen plenty of movies this year, but like this is the first one I was like, I can just recommend this without even like any caveats.
I could go see him. I want to see it later.
Yeah, I want to see it in like a good theater because I saw it at my local theater, and like they put so much into like the IMAX kind of thing, like that like it's almost parts of it are kind of hard to see on like a normal movie screen.
Yeah,
and
did
so,
you guys?
I definitely want to go see it like at a theater that's doing like IMAX or something, so you can actually like.
Well, speaking of that, they were dropping the IMAX for Thunderbolts, which if we do an after party, I want to talk about my review of Thunderbolts, but. The demand for it to come back to IMAX was so high that they in about 2 weeks is coming back on IMAX theaters for about like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh wow!
The AMC website crashed because so many people were wanting them IMAX tickets. That's how like this, and this is all this after the Netflix CEOs like, well, actually, movie theaters are dead, and people would rather watch our C tier, mid part, subpar movies instead, where we have to explain everyone. And I'm like,
well, yeah, but I mean, you have to say
age well.
If you're the Netflix CEO, of course you're going to say that.
Yeah,
like,
dumbass.
If you don't say that, you're like it's like a guy that's like, everyone wants to eat in our food service. They don't want to go to restaurants anymore. Like, you have to say that if you run a food service.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, the proof's in the pudding, right? I mean, it's like made something like 161 million so far, which is insane for like a non-IP property. I mean,
and Variety was
it had a $90 million production budget. So that initial like just sort of the framing of like somehow that like that was like a loss is like, wow, that's pretty blatant. But I mean, it's still going strong, right? And it's holding strong against like an actual, I don't know what the budget
the
of Thunderbolt is, but huge
6%. Like it's not dropping like by a lot of percents, like.
But that's because it has word of mouth. It has word of mouth that people are like, wow, this movie's good, you should see it. And people will go see it again, which is, used to be something you could rely on. Now it's just a little more, it's rare because honestly, I hate to say it, but we don't get as many movies that are like that kind of like buzzworthy that you want to tell your like friends that are not like people on this show, hey, go see it. Or fans of this show, hey, go see it. Like, because there's people that are just like, I'm just like a person and I have a job probably and like do a thing. And then like, be like, you should see Sinners. It's good. And they're like, wow, that was a good movie. And that's, I mean, for genre fare, that's amazing. That's been a lot. I mean, we talked a lot about, in Vampire Month, hilariously without ever talking about the Robert Pattinson movies, but like Bram Stoker's Dracula and what a like phenom that was. Interview with the Vampire, what a phenom that was, and how it was something that transcended being genre fare. Made it actual blockbuster.
I was a Twilight gal when I was a teenager.
That's your business.
Team Voldemort. Just kidding.
You're the right age too. You got to understand. I was not.
Yeah.
I also think that like there's like a very specific dynamic between like Black audiences and cinema that's that's made by like Black directors and starring like a predominantly Black cast. Like the word of mouth for like that kind of cinema, I've noticed like with my friends that are Black and stuff like that blows up. Like if you find something that's like a project that people are like rushing to go see, like they'll be talking about it like 10 years later. It's still like,
and especially if it's entertaining,
using the characters like first names, like it's like people they know.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, but it's also, I mean, think of it this way: like, how often do we get a movie that's this big but this entertaining, but also does like you get some of the stuff that I personally love out of art house fare in it as well, and it managed to like ride that balance beam. Then how often do you get that where you can actually see it? Let alone see it where it's like designed to be like in the biggest production houses possible, like say IMAX. That's huge. That's like gigantic, because if you think about it, if you think about the what we had perceived as like these will be the blockbusters of the last year or whatever, some of them did not materialize. Most of them did not materialize, but there's always at least one kind of come from behind, like, oh, this one is actually doing really well. And I'm really glad, because I've been not kind of Nosferatu, because technically speaking, it's a 2024 movie. I've been like low-key disappointed, not high-key disappointed, but just like nothing's blown me away. Like I thought Mickey 17 was pretty good. Like, but I was ready for it to be amazing. I'm like, oh, it's like Oakland Snowpiercer. Okay.
And one thing too was you can see how Christopher Nolan was a major inspiration for Ryan Coogler in this film. He even gets like a credit. Like how the film and IMAX and stuff like that was a big inspo for Ryan. Like it's amazing that
both have Ludwig as their like
Ludwig, Oscar winner. Yeah, I mean that's a great score too.
I mean, I think both of those scores. His scores are really good. His scores are so much better than like the Hans Zimmer kind of.
Oh my god!
His scores are.
I think his wife also is involved as like a producer too. So it's like a team effort. But
Yeah.
like, it's just he's able to set the mood, and I feel like that's something that Hans Zimmer lacks when it comes to his. Everything sounds the same, but like with Oppenheimer, it's like very panicky. But you can see how there's like some rock element into Sinners, like especially that. I mean, I cannot stop talking about that sequence of the history of like all types of music, all cultures. Like I was watching that for the first time, like.
Yeah, it's an incredible sequence. I mean, it's okay to talk about it, And
it's almost like what it was like, almost like filming like what, and also there's a lot of like one.
Nobody's
like,
gonna dock you points or something,
There's also like the continuous long single shot too in the film.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible sequence that would be right down the line for anything. It's like Criterion Fare or like a movie, a specific premiere or something along those lines. So the fact that it's in this huge blockbuster, and that's Coogler, who is an artist as a filmmaker. That's him getting it in and managing to like do so in the guise of a genre popcorn movie.
Yeah. So he wrote this letter because I think he felt like he had, at least in some point to this, taken so liberally from a lot of people that that like he was inspired by, right? Like he's been very open about his inspirations, and like throughout this. So the letter lists a bunch of people from like Jordan Peele to Paul Thomas Anderson to Scorsese to Ta-Nehisi Coates to George Lucas, like Coppola.
You can see it all.
Yeah, like literally. I mean, I'm not. There's so many names on this letter that
like you can see where like this looks very Scorsese. It just definitely looks very Jordan Peele. Like where this is very like you can tell like there's so much inspiration in this film, and it gives off like the best of who came before him and who inspired him.
Yeah,
well, because he's doing it within the context of the movie too, right?
Yes.
So
yeah. He has even like Brian De Palma. He has Wes Craven. He has I mean Stephen King, obviously, because he's been very open about the fact that he read Salem's Lot. Yeah, he read Salem's Lot, and he read the book that Stephen King wrote about writing, and he was like reading it, and he's like, wait, so he just took he just placed Dracula into like a small town. And he was like, what if I did that with like the Mississippi Delta? Right. And it's a vampire. And like, so he was very open about that. John Carpenter's on it, like Cronenberg. David Lynch obviously is on it.
Oh yeah.
Christopher Nolan is on it. Like, so he has like just this really amazing list of people that he was inspired by. And then under it, of course, he has like, he thanks like Michael B. Jordan and Ludwig, who he went to college with, I believe. Like they've had like a friendship since, for a really long time.
Well, and it's incredible to like he's just someone that's very, very present and thankful for like where he came from, but also like the folks he's working with. He's very loyal as well. Like mentioning Ludwig Göransson in the chat, Art with Words has mentioned that like they've been doing stuff together since Creed, and like that's honestly the Creed soundtrack goes so hard. Like it's so good, and he did something so amazing, which has managed to like work in. Like, so first of all, the fact that the Rocky theme lost that year at the Oscars blows my mind to this day. Yeah. But like managed to work that in a way that is not like shamelessly fan servicey or like annoying or cloying. It's like when it happens, you're just like, oh yeah. And it's so good. And it's in the larger scope of this larger composition, which I'm going to tell you as a musician is incredibly hard to do. And that's why most people don't do it. And that led to him doing stuff in The Mandalorian. That led to him doing stuff, for all kinds of like things that you've definitely heard. But it all started with Creed.
Yeah, well, it started with Fig. They did a short film together in 2011.
As a success, it started with Creed. To be explicitly clear.
No,
I'm not saying he did stuff for We're the Millers.
It's like an interesting. This is an interesting story. So they met at USC. They were going there together, and they started collaborating in college. So they made a movie called Fig that I haven't seen. The two of them did, and then he's done the score for Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Sinner. So they've been like they've been tight.
And that's the thing. If you want a composer if you want like someone who makes a score to go hard, Ludwig is your guy because his shit always goes. It's very intense.
And I'm sure nobody noticed because there's like 500,000 movies on the list. I've had Creed on the 2 cover list for a long time because there's so much to talk about with that movie specifically.
Sports movies. Let's go.
Right, exactly.
bring my sister as a guest for Love and Basketball.
and to be clear, I wasn't meant to denigrate what came before. I'm saying that that's what brought him to like Louis Gordon to a national stage. That's what led him to doing like Star Wars shows and stuff like that, because that was something that was a surprise hit. So it's not that that's the partnership started there. I'm just saying that's where it started, where like it hit big for both.
Oh yeah,
and he's still loyal to the dude that was there when I was
honestly fact checking myself, because I was like, I know that they met in college, but I was trying to figure out the details of it.
That's fine. We're all saying the same thing, which is basically that like Ryan Coogler is the coolest guy in the world.
And then obviously Ludwig Göransson also did Community, and that's where he met Donald Glover, and then he produced the first two.
That's where This Is America. Yep.
Yeah, so he produced Camp, and he produced Because of the Internet, and like that was the first I ever like cognizantly heard about Ludwig, because in Bonfire he says ask Ludwig or whatever, like in the middle. Like
no, but again, so we're talking about all these constituent elements, because this is a perfect example of something that just goes that's we just hit that one. It has been he could not have made this movie 10 years ago. He'd be the first one to admit that, right? But he has had like a steady incline. Even then, I don't love Creed 2 and 3 as much as I love the original, but they're good movies. It's just that like the first Creed is like, oh, that's so badass. Like it's like
bombs.
You can't. Yeah, it's not that they're bad movies at all. They're good movies. Even though Creed 3 unfortunately features Kang the Conqueror. He who shall not be named,
literally.
But it's. He knows how to make the Black Panther movies. He knows how to make like a big production. So to see him like go this hard on a movie this entertaining, and then also to like work it out, like I'm sure we're going to talk about like the rights incentives, right? Because that's something that very clearly some of the coverage of just like, well, I don't know if it's that impressive yet, comes out of that, right? In that same way that Sing Sing having the equal share distribution is like probably had a lot to do with that movie being
I think also
Max is gonna crash when that's on streaming.
A black site.
It's the fact that it's literally the fact that giving an artist control of their work is like, even if it's control 25 years in the future, where it's Warner Brothers owns your movie, and then 25 years you get the ownership of it, which is what the deal is, I'm pretty sure. Even then the other studios are livid about the fact that
because it's setting a precedent, right? And then other people would be like, well, freaking this guy can do it. I want that deal too. That sounds great.
How dare they have ownership of their own IP, their own project?
Think about stuff that's never had like a Criterion edition release, because like the studio just like for whatever dumb reason they have, like, all right, let's talk about Elaine May. Right? Why do we not even have a decent version of Heartbreak Kid? Well, because they freaking bought the rights and made like a crappy remake of it. I think starring Ben Stiller. It's terrible, I'm sure. And it's like, cool. I want to see like the awesome movie though. Oh no, you can't, because we have the rights for that, and we're gonna bury it for forever until like people have forgotten about this bomb. Okay, well,
well, it's also a way of cracking the whip and making sure that the artists that work for you don't, not to use like a this kind of slave term, but don't get too uppity and like start demanding too much, because at that point you can just say, all right, well, if you're going to break the taboos of Hollywood's exploitation over you, we can just make sure that none of your things ever go.
Let's make sure it's not a success, right?
Yeah. Or we can even in the case of like some artists, like they re-edit the movies and like literally make like a different cut of it and cut like the director out of it completely, and it's like, Jesus Christ.
Well, and that's what that Brady Corbet character was, again, as KT called it, parading around talking about, is that like he made sure he had Final Cut written into the soundtrack, into the contract, which one could argue that movie, we bet it was a little judicious cutting, at least 10 minutes of it. But anyway, that's just also that movie's mad long. But from an artistic perspective, I get it. Dude made the movie he wanted to make, and like it's
he was able to get creative control over it. Like that's especially since like everything that Ryan Coogler has come out with has never gotten like a low critical score. Like it's always, everything he's come out with have been like critically acclaimed, and he's probably one of the best filmmakers of our time, like in this new era. But he's also still considered very underrated. And I hope Sinners changes that.
It is sharecropping, Rick. You're right. That's exactly what it is, but they want that to be the the rule, not the exception. I mean, and rights issues are so important. It happens in music too. I mean, that's one of the reasons. Like, what do Dolly Parton and Tom Waits have in common? Well, they've never sold off any of their rights ever, so they have total control over their catalog.
I Was Always Love You. Was supposed to be Elvis was supposed to get the rights to that,
and she told Colonel Tom Parker to go stuff it when he said like, "Hey, we're going to share the writing credits 50-50." And she's like, "The hell we will."
And that's look at Whitney's version. She's like, I'm fine that Whitney's version is popular. I get all the writing credits. That's what matters.
That's what built Dollywood. Are you kidding me? Yeah, of course that's fine. But the thing is, like, most artists are in situations where they feel like they have to make compromises. They have to make compromises to just get it out in the world. Oftentimes because you do. But you have to make these compromises, and then you end up not owning it. Which, boy, is that ever the story of literally like every blues person ever.
Yeah,
right? And that's even like folks that are considered like people that are avenues of discovery for some of these artists. We're actually exploiting them as well. I mean, like, this isn't the story of Leadbelly, but like look it up, people. That's all I got to say. And what I like is this movie about vampires manages to touch on all that.
Well, and I think it's completely fascinating that this has kind of been billed. I mean, by him, like by Ryan Coogler, especially, like as his most personal story. And it's funny that it's a movie about vampires.
Who's really the bad guy in this movie? I remember seeing, Redmick the first time. I'm like, oh, he's a vampire. He's getting chased by indigenous folks. Ooh, but then he kills, those, clan members. He's like, oh, we're not part of the clan. We're for equality. And I'm like, just the way he said that, I just couldn't laugh. I couldn't stop laughing.
Well, and there's a really good there's a clip that I like. I think I put some of it in the intro where he's talking about how with the clan and with all of these kind of groups around the Mississippi Delta, right? Like, he picked an Irish vampire in particular, because there were a lot of
struggle,
Irish immigrants that, had come through come through the Mississippi Delta at various times.
Irish not applied.
But because he's like an ancient Celtic vampire, he's Aberneth or whatever. Like, there's like an ancient vampire that they think that maybe Dracula was based on. The story of Dracula was actually based on this ancient Irish story, as well as, I mean, the Vlad the Impaler story. But actually, these Irish legends have more in common with Dracula than the actual story of like Vlad the Impaler or whatever. And he said that he liked the fact that an Irish vampire coming over from like the old world wouldn't have these racial dynamics.
They wouldn't have any frame of reference, right? Exactly. In the same way that somebody come over from actual Africa doesn't know like the lived experience of like African American coming from like slavery. How would they?
So he's able to like transcend these racial these racial things and like legitimately be like, whoa, why can't I come in as a white guy? And it's like, when you're in your head, you're like, Jim Crow, like it's literally illegal for a white guy to come in just as much.
What's Jim Crow? What
but it's like, but because of that, right? Like, it gives the vampire like this ability, as Ryan Coogler said, to give them like a sweet deal where it's like, equality, and, like liberation in their own way.
Between that and like picking cotton, I mean, Jesus.
I mean, that's when I rewatched Sinners. My rewatch Letterboxd review was like, wow, for the first time, there's progress. We have white people not want to murder black folks because of the color of their skin. They want to liberate them. I mean, who doesn't want to be a vampire?
But there's also the same kind of, I mean, not the same because it's not, but like there's these similar kind of thing between, the Anglos coming into Ireland and literally colonizing the Irish, taking their land, subjugating them, not enslaving them necessarily, but subjugating them, imposing Christianity, onto them, like all of these different things. And the way that black people were treated, and Native Americans especially, were treated by the same kind of Anglo settlers in both cases. Yeah. So like there's these shared connections, and Ryan Coogler has talked about that a lot. Like, he's really into Irish folk music black people are a lot of times really into Irish folk music because there's the same spirit of liberation and the same spirit
the same spirits of like the dispossessed, the working poor, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, John Lomax is exactly who I'm talking about. John Lomax versus Leadbelly. If you're interested remotely in like social justice or music history, it's worth exploring. Real piece of work. His son's Alan Lomax, who's innocent, but John Lomax absolutely exploited Leadbelly, who was never ever saw any success or rewards from his work the entire time.
Leadbelly died in poverty, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And John Lomax did that with a lot of people, but Leadbelly is the most noticeable one.
Well, he was like a prisoner, so it was very easy to do it.
Yeah.
In the same way that the Delta Slim character in this, right? He talks about how,
and that's the only reason I'm even bringing it up is because it ties into that
Yeah.
character. Which, by the way, Delroy Lindo goated in this, like amazing.
Yeah, and the actors, actually singers who played the clan couple that Remick changes, they're musicians. They're folk musicians. Yeah. I looked up and I was like, oh, no wonder they sound so good.
It's actual musicians.
They look like Peter, Paul, and Mary, the three of them.
They do.
Yeah, they didn't have to call in Chris Murphy from Sloan to have them show them how to play their instruments. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Which is, I mean, good on him for doing that too, because a lot of people wouldn't care to do that.
I saw someone call them Peter, Paul, and Scary.
That's good. That's good.
Also, the Irish hoedown music, they're trapped inside and they hear them all singing because everyone's changed and they're getting down with the Irish. I'm like, yeah. And everyone's like, what are you cheering? I'm like, this is cool. What are you talking?
Because it's way cooler than picking
cotton. They're all
cotton.
partying together. This is a multiracial party.
It's
peace and harmony, man. Like,
I also there's this thing that I looked up because I watched Ryan Coogler's interview where there's this long history where the Choctaw, like the Native American tribe that are represented in this movie, they actually they were sent through the Trail of Tears into Oklahoma for during Andrew Jackson's presidency, and then in the 1840s they actually sent $5,000. They raised it and sent it to the Irish for the potato famine. When they were really going through it, they sent this money, and it was oppressed people having solidarity with each other. So there's actually a statue of a statue of these feathers that are the Choctaw feathers in Ireland that they have still because of this. And they've had two Irish presidents, I think a president and a Taoiseach, come visit the Choctaw Nation. And then during COVID, the Irish got together all this money and gave it to the Navajo. And they said pretty much this is because the Choctaw, one of the tribes that you guys have solidarity with, they were nice to us when we needed it, and because you guys got hit so hard by COVID, we're gonna save this money for you. So there's been this long solidarity between those groups.
Irish are always the good guys. They're pro Palestine, pro Black liberation, yeah. I love my people, not the Germans.
I'm not sure if the Irish have always been the good guys. That's a large sweeping statement, but
I mean, we all know that the potato famine was not their fault, and that the British were taking all the potatoes. Just to say that.
Well, if it's Irish versus the colonial British, for sure. I mean, don't give me
the ones that came over to America and settled the cities. Not the best of them.
No, Irish mom. Can we talk about Hailee's character for a second, because that whole thing, my mama's daddy was half Black. There's so much discussion about Hailee Steinfeld's race. I'm like, she is 12% Black in real life.
Yeah,
there's a one drop rule. I was watching a lot of TikTokers who are of color explaining how she is, how she definitely was white passing back then, but someone like Rashida Jones or Halsey or anyone who looks very biracial would not pass as white passing back in that time. So casting her made a lot of sense, and I'm like, thank you for explaining that.
Her grandpa, it's the same as I think in the movie. Her grandpa or something is half. Well, I guess he's half Filipino and half African American, but he's half African American. That was exactly the line they said in the movie.
And there's so much discourse about it. I'm like, but a lot of people are right though. She is a white passing woman at that time period. You couldn't cast Mariah Carey or any other who have Afro Afro Venezuelan or Afro whatever in their past. Hailee Steinfeld, she killed it in that role.
Steinfeld.
I know. I keep wanting to say Seinfeld so bad. Not going to say anything wrong with that. So I'm gonna stick your blood. Like there's anything wrong with that.
Sure. So it's also important that we've barely talked about the plot because there's so much else to talk about with this. I love a good putting a team together sequence, and this is one of the better ones I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
And Ryan's got 5 movies and Save for the Studio, Medley, and Wakanda Forever, which probably led to the deal Ryan made with Sinners. By the way, they are all worth seeing. Agreed. Even when it's not my favorite of his, none of them are bad. They're all worth watching. They're all good. But great putting a team together, except for the team we're opened up a juke joint.
Yeah.
which is amazing. And I love that because I've never seen that before. It's always they're going to do a crime. No, they're trying to go legit. They're just buying this land off this Ku Klux Klan guy that is absolutely 100% going to kill them later.
Yeah. And they also
that's what Remick tells them. He's like, they were going to kill y'all. You know that, right? We're going to save y'all.
You picked the wrong neighborhood to because they're literally oh, can we pay in wooden coins? And it's come on, man.
We gave you all this money. What the fuck? You still want to kill us? Ridiculous. But yeah, I like the assembling of the team because it's you have the wife of like the Asian business owner because obviously he got turned. You have the ex-wife, the ex-baby.
Oh yeah, spoilers galore. By the way, I don't know if you get an hour deep into this and you don't realize there's going to be spoilers, but there's going to be spoilers. Yeah. I should have mentioned that at the time.
But like, it's a really good like putting together team sequence. They're doing all the you got to eat the garlic. I'm like, why eat the garlic so you can breathe on them with your garlic breath? Is that what that is? Like, what's going on here?
But then also you get it early on, like when he's going to the store before the sequence, he wants the sign made, right? And like he pays the girl to like, hey, I want you to watch this truck, and come yelling if somebody comes around, which somebody does, which is great because then you get to see not only him taking the largesse of their ill-gotten gains, but spreading around to the community, but then also
they're feared,
dealing with the very imperiously with theft and like kind of a jacked up situation as well. But you get all these things without anybody like speaking aloud to you about them.
Yeah.
You see it on the screen, and I think that is, again, and we've seen, and I like those Oceans movies are fine. They're fine. They're not bad. But like this is so much, because otherwise, what you normally get is like, oh, that's Forrest. He's really good with a knife. And you see Forrest just like juggling knives for no reason. Like, why is he juggling knives? Like, does he just do this in his living room? And, but you get to see people that are being brought in and you get to see them as characters and as humans, but not necessarily doing the thing that they're being called in to do. Yeah. Like you can infer when they grab that dude from the fields, I'm like, that dude's huge. I bet he's going to be the bouncer. You don't need to be like, you were the best bouncer and blah, blah, blah. You just see him rile him up and practically get his ass kicked, which is great. Yeah. It's awesome. And it's
another opportunity of them to be like, what, you want to stay in the fields and pick cotton?
Yeah, that sounds like it sucks.
Pick cotton. You're literally doing the same.
I guess the cotton gym wasn't in the South yet in the 30s.
But yeah, like I think that you end up in a situation too, and this is great with the dual Michael B. Jordans that Michael B. Jordan, Michael C. Jordan, if you will, that they both have different ways that they approach it, and they both have different ways which they interact with people, and it allows characterization for both of our main characters as well as allowing a ability to like see people in action again as humans, not just like the skills and values that they provide. Like, and that's huge because there's certain things that like show up later that you don't need to have told you because you've gotten like a note for their character earlier on.
You also get a perfect representation without them having to like, without them having to say like in the Jim Crow South where it's just, it's like one of the few times where it truly is for Black people in America, like kind of this liminal space where you still have people literally laboring their ass off to pick cotton in the fields, but then you also have people that somehow rob somebody,
rolling up in a car, dressed nice. They're like not laboring.
People have gotten their nut, I guess. You know what I mean? Like that are able to transcend at least temporarily because the Klan, if you transcend too much, the Klan's gonna come around and make sure that stops. But like you would at least get this temporary kind of liminal space where it's like
not like Black Wall Street.
Upward mobility is like possible for for Black people.
And you see it, and that's so imperative to it being a great movie is that like you see it rather than being told. You don't have a Ken Burns style narrator telling you about it. Like you see it in action. Yeah, which I love that stuff too. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and there's a place, but I'm just saying.
But we know show don't tell.
Don't tell. Exactly. What's
the only time
there's problems with those Star Wars prequels? Well, the fact that they're telling you constantly about how you should feel rather than showing you.
The only time you really get like kind of a narrator, which I liked in the very beginning, you get it explained to you that like all of these cultures, the Choctaw, like in Africa and in Europe, there were these different legends of like the vampire as like a thing. And when you think about it, like every culture, I mean now especially with pop culture, but like back then, right? Like every culture has some kind of representation of the vampire or of the hate, this kind of
and that brings that universality of the vampire legend as well as the universality of oppressed people as well early on, and it's something that you can forget about, and they're like, oh right, that's right. Like let's say it's your first day on planet Earth and you don't know any of those things, right? I mean, then you have it available for you, but it's not done in that clean way of just like, hey idiot, like I'm going to tell you this stuff because clearly you don't know. And again, I feel like we talked a lot. We did Abigail and From Dusk Till Dawn both about how one of the like, well, what do we know about vampires? And like, and people, there's all this misinformation. People don't really know anything. Without it getting postmodern about it, I really like that you don't get that sequence. You just have a sort of like, they're just dealing with it.
Yeah, she knows all because she's into all that stuff, and she knows all about like the like witchcraft and like like voodoo or whatever, like like she believes in all that stuff. And they're like, really? She's like, I know all this shit. We're gonna figure out a way to take them down. This is what you have to do.
Right, and there isn't that post-ironic discussion about it where
like,
it has to be made into a joke or something along those lines. Because it's not that I don't like those kinds of sequences that would have been completely out of place in this time period. In this time period, that was not in existence. Yeah. Honestly, people
like believe the legends back then.
Sure. There's a lot of stuff you don't know, right? Yeah. And that's crazy. But it's something where period pieces can really work for that, because you can get out of these tropes that I feel like we fall into often and often that make for hack work. They're like, how many times have we seen like, wow, that movie's really good, I wish that they didn't do this thing in it, which is the thing that like you quote unquote have to do because the studio is like, well, nobody's gonna know what's going on if a character doesn't announce it. I'm like, yes they will.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, how many vampire movies do you have to go through? Also, you could tell like this is very like the cinematography of this movie is it was giving From Dusk Till Dawn and like Abigail with like the brown gold, and especially like in the club scene. I was like, yeah, I'm like this is. I'm like, if you want to do a good vampire movie, you got to have this specific like color scheme, like color palette or whatever.
You got to make a choice, right? You just want to have like like this shit brown that everybody seems to have. That's like, why is this the like you just did?
Why is it too dark? Okay. I cannot color this thing that I want to color and edit.
Right, and there's things that exactly, and there are genre movies like that I do like. That it's like wow, they just really decided to go for the most boring
urine
color
yellow
scheme possible. Exactly, urine yellow and poop brown.
Oh, this movie's supposed to be all colorful. No, it's not. What are you doing?
Well, and that's the other thing is like, say what you will about the sons and daughters of Jacques Tati, but at least like, when something's like bright and colorful, it looks different. Because other than like Gerwig in the Barbie movie and, Wes Anderson, like not a lot of people do bright colors anymore.
Yeah, I will give Twilight credit. They did have like that nice blue looking, like it made the Pacific Northwest look how I envision it to look. Like cloudy, gloomy.
It's very
color.
Great. It's very gloomy. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, but I think that's incredible. I think that the team building sequence is great, and then you get to sit with them and see their idea brought to life. And that like it's still like on a narrow balancing beam than like they're even letting on to the people that have signed on for it, and so you get so invested in that that's almost like, oh right, there's vampires coming.
Yeah, and they're all doing the Irish showdown outside.
I was worried about like what's their next month of business returns going to be like? Are they going to be able to meet their payroll? Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh yeah, that's going to be the least of their problems. There's some goddamn vampires coming in, right? Also, amazing.
Yeah, it's like no matter what scale your problems are on, your personal problems, vampires blow that out of the water. Like
also, one thing I noticed is how they transform into vampires. You don't usually it's like they bite you like once, twice, 3 times a lady, give you their blood. It's just you bite them and just once and they become a vampire. It's like as if they're being affected with like their saliva, their germs, and that's how they become a vampire.
They do the thing where
quick.
They kind of parody the thing where the vampire always spits the the vampire like secretion into the mouth of the other person, and they have that line where Hailee Steinfeld spits the thing back into his mouth, and which somebody was surprised that was like, they're like, she really spit that apparently, and it's like, yeah, you thought they CGI?
I think it was prosthetic. I mean, what did you think? Well, and that's
so they like parody that into like that's one of the things the vampires can kind of do to like that's like sexy enough to get you to like be seduced by them, but it's not the main way that you transform. Which in a lot of them, you have to get that second one, or else you don't fully transform.
You're drooling. What the hell? Oh, sorry.
Probably the best time to mention that this is maybe the most cunnilingus friendly movie, mainstream movie I've seen in a long time, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna do a black vampire
Preacher
movie.
Boy.
You're gonna do a black vampire movie that's not like a Wes Craven thing where it's like a white guy writing a black vampire movie, right? Like you gotta
Vampire Brooklyn is a classic. What are you talking about?
I love the line. What? You're gonna rob? You're gonna steal from banks and gangsters, but you're not gonna steal this pussy for a night? And I don't know, that line made me laugh out loud in the theater.
I'm saying it's same for us. Like there are parts where I laughed at all the I guess it just didn't click for some of the audience, and I'm like, am I the only white person in this theater? Yes, I am. Why am I laughing at this part?
I don't know, just the line delivery of "steal this pussy for a night." I was just cracking up.
That is a yeah. I mean, one especially, you know. Respect. That's a good line.
Yeah.
Mary's character is great. Like that's that's an awesome character. I've always liked Hailee Steinfeld. I haven't seen her in like tons of stuff. I thought she was like, I like that Hawkeye series. I thought she was good in that. And like
her
True Grit way back when she was in True Grit, the freaking
as a kid.
Jeff Bridges, and she was great in that. I was like, I gotta remember to keep an eye on her, and I didn't. But anyway, she's great.
It's another example also of picking an actual like singer, like an actual musician to be a musician, and that's makes it work. I mean, Miles Caton too, right? Like that kid can play the fuck out of blues guitar, and like and then they picked him they cast him for that reason. They didn't cast him like they didn't cast Michael Cera and his friends to mimic blues guitar playing.
Another thing that I've noticed that when you become a vampire, you don't necessarily have a soul, or you feel, or you care for people. When Smoke's wife gets attacked, when he stabs her she's like, Mary's overcome with like sadness and grief, and like she's about to she's like, oh my god, no, and I'm like, they still have some sort of feeling.
Well, they also have the collective.
Well, he said the soul's trapped in some way. I think that's how the wife was explaining it too, if I remember.
Yeah, she said that the difference between like a hate or whatever and a vampire is that the soul is actually trapped inside of the person. It's the only way to actually like liberate the soul in that case is to kill them, rather than the vampire that loses their soul, and that's why they're around the world. Their soul is still there. I like the whole use of like collective empathy when they hit the main vampire like Remick, but they hit him with something, and then all the vampires start screaming and crying and like shaking or whatever.
It reminds me of the Suicide Squad when they attacked Starro, and every time Starro got hit, all the ones that were like
well, it's a cult. It's like a cult thing, right? Like I feel like cult, like people who are in the cult, right? Like when they talk about like brainwashing, like one of the things is that if one person feels pain, like they all start to collectively, or like you look at like Midsommar, where she's going through the thing and all the girls are like holding her and they're all like screaming and crying together. It's the same kind of thing, but it also like shows you like as much as it sounds good to not be a sharecropper, to be a vampire, like it's this kind of cult phenomenon that like is like very creepy,
like a one mind. Like they'll share like one mind, like a host.
It's like a Gestalt density. I mean, look at like Last of Us, or anything along those lines. Anything with like a hive mind situation.
It's so fucking crazy though when he starts speaking Chinese, and it's like because they make these videos where it's like a white boy speaking Chinese, and it's like all like on TikTok they'll be like white guy speaks perfect Chinese, and he starts like speaking in perfect Chinese. It's like, damn, there's a white guy that can speak perfect Chinese.
Well, and it's funny. Yeah. Can I say that was a thing that I saw a couple times in Japan, which is like the white guy who just pleased as could be that he knew how to speak like letter perfect Japanese with like inflection, and it is kind of weird to see, and it's also like, yeah, we get it, dude, we get it. Like,
I mean,
like, and that's how I felt. So I can only imagine how a native feels of like, all right, okay. Because what they'll often do is like, as a sign of respect, you'll like speak a few words of Japanese, and then like they'll start speaking to you in English, and it's just like, oh, you made an attempt, cool, thank you, that's very respectful.
Yeah.
But like, these guys are like, no, I know a lot. No, we know you do, and we don't need you to speak it at me.
It's the hardest language to learn though, Japanese. Yeah. So it's if I would 100% be like, flexing my Japanese if I could speak it, because it's like,
I put all this work into learning it. You're gonna hear it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like when he started speaking Chinese and like speaks like that perfect Chinese, and she's like
threatening
really
the
taking
daughter.
back
Yeah.
yeah, it's like damn, there's one of those white guys that can speak perfect. white
I
guys.
had a feeling that God, what's the character's name again? I recognize the actress. She was also in Babylon, who played the business owning wife. What's her name?
I think
again?
Grace and Bo are the Chinese couple.
Yeah, Grace. Yeah, Grace Show. Yeah, Grace and Bell. What a cute name. I had a feeling that she would be the one to fuck things up. I had a feeling with she has a child,
Wow.
to think about. Like,
Yeah,
I had a feeling
women hate much. Wow.
Exactly. This is a woman hating podcast, especially I'm not a feminist. Y'all know this. But she's like, how many you motherfuckers? And I'm like, oh no, it's just like 5 against like 50 or more vampires. Are you kidding me? And almost everyone in there is killed. I mean, she dies by fire. Her boat get caught on fire. And they die together. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute.
But they go out of their way to make sure that you see the daughter a bunch of times, so you know that like she really has something to lose.
Yeah.
And, they like left their daughter at home for the night. They thought it was gonna be a regular night at the Duke, and it wasn't.
Nope. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think so. There's this I saw this on Threads. I think there was this woman that had made a documentary, a Chinese American woman who had made a documentary about the Chinese immigrants in the Mississippi Delta, and she said that Ryan Coogler had actually rented and watched her documentary before.
You can tell he did his research for this film.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's all these different all these different groups that that are like non-white groups that even including the Irish are obviously white, but they're still at least at this time seen as
Irish need not apply here and all that.
Yeah, like an outsider group, and all these groups kind of together ended up making like this really beautiful culture. And we look at a lot of it and we're like, well, the blues are really amazing, but like we don't necessarily have that same like the clan and like the slavery and stuff get a lot of the attention for Mississippi at this time period. We don't really think about all the other groups that were living in that same area.
And that's why it's a reminder that blues, country, rock and roll, and that's why that sequence is so important, because it shows that all that is Black music first.
Sure.
We just bastardized it. I mean, look at soul. For instance, like soul music. There's been a genre called blue eye soul for white people, white artists and singers who just sound Black. And I'm like, why?
How about soul songs for white people? Okay. Great.
Yeah, Righteous Brothers. Let's go. Righteous Brothers.
Whatever. And I like some of that too. But it's especially when you go, and again, this is also why I was invoking Lomax earlier, because there were so many people like John Lomax that were weaponizing the fact that these were folk songs. These were traditional songs that were handed down person to person, and they were monetized. They were monetized in a system that rewarded basically rich to middle class, such as it is, white people who just were exploiting people for and that was literally what the music business was for multiple decades.
Yeah, and he was changing the lyrics and changing how the music it sounds like it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, look at even as late and as whatever weirder person is Albert Grossman, right? Like when everyone's talking about the Bob Dylan, Bob Dylan's thing, he was literally stealing half the money that these are white artists that had the actual privilege and that had kind of more say in their in their stuff, right? Like they're not prisoners that they picked and just been like, give me all your songs. Like they're these are people that had some kind of say, had some fame, had some power in their thing, and still Albert Grossman's stealing 50% of the money off the top.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's there's a long history too of if you're interested, there's a great podcast that goes through a lot of this stuff because it's a music history thing that is sort of infrequently updated now, but the history of rock music in 500 songs. I highly recommend listening to it, because even if you think you know a lot, and I do know a lot, to be clear, music is my life, right? Like that's like my main thing. But even then, the level of research this guy does into the specific relationships and how things happen, and it's really crazy to think about. And it's way worse than you could possibly imagine. And also not in a way of well, they knew what they're getting into. No. No, they didn't. The entire system was built to exploit people. And the worst thing you can say about it is the people being exploited were like, well, they're not my songs really anyway. They belong to everybody. And they're like, ha, 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 ha. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, like you think of like if somebody as famous at the time, right? Like I think it was the early 70s, like Bob Dylan realized he was having the, all the music, like all the money stolen from him because of these contracts. Like if somebody that famous, like that on top of the music industry at the time could be exploited to that level, like, the Lead Bellies of the world. No chance.
Right. For sure. And how would you ever, even if you did have like equal rights, right? Pat Boone, look at Pat Boone's career.
Oh my
right?
God. Racist piece of shit.
Who can forget the definitive version of Tutti Frutti by Pat Boone?
Yeah.
Perfect example.
And I noticed, like, as the 60s went on, a lot of artists did actually, like, especially like folk artists were like, yeah, a lot of this is black music. But yeah, exactly. I'm the architect of rock and roll. You can notice that a lot of, like the Beatles and a lot of like folk artists were like, yeah, a lot of this music is originally black music. We got to pay, tribute to these artists. These artists came before us. But then you have like, someone that like, labeled, who's the king of rock and roll? Elvis Presley. What about the queen of rock and roll, which was the woman who originally did songs like Hound Dog and whatnot?
Sister Rosetta Tharpe, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, what about those people? They pioneered for white people to bastardize their music and make it popular.
Big Mama Thornton, like Luther Dixon, Lorraine Ellison. There's so many people that just are written out of history. I mean, they literally had like the charts that they'd rebranded to be soul and R&B, but there was like, I think they just called it black music for a while, which is like, wow, okay, that's
what's so great about this movie. It pays tribute to those artists in a way.
Yeah, I have a clip that actually Ryan Coogler makes this exact point. But
let's go.
That's also why it was such a big deal when like such a big deal for culture in general, right? When David Bowie called out MTV, and it was like when he was like
in the 80s,
like, and it was still in like the 90s. He's like, you guys don't play anything by black artists, right, and like.
About how you developed the idea for this and wrote it. I mean, this horror film, this film about everything from Jim Crow to slavery, the magnificent music, and the fact that you made it a vampire film.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a great group of questions. Like, to be honest with you, my family is like many families in California. We products of the second wave of the Great Migration, meaning that, before California, my family was in the South, in the Gulf states primarily, but also some of them were in Mississippi. And it's ironic because with my grandmother and her mom, before her and my mom are known for is their gumbo. They cook a style of gumbo that comes from Port Arthur, Texas, and as you know, that the dish is probably most famous in Louisiana, but it's combining a lot of different elements into one uniform dish that's beloved. My family is known for making some of the best gumbo, and this was my opportunity to make some cinematic gumbo. I took some things that might seem disparate, in a description, but I think they go very well together. I grew up in Oakland, and one of the most important people in my life was my Uncle James Edmondson, who was a Mississippi man who married my grandmother's younger sister, Sammy, who the main character in the film is named after. But for a considerable amount of time, he was the oldest male member of my family, and I just really loved spending time with him. And all he wanted to do when he was off from work was listen to blues music, drink Old Taylor whiskey, and maybe catch a game of San Francisco Giants on the radio. And I associated that music with him. I never felt like it belonged to me. It felt like it was music for older people. But he passed away in 2015. And I was devastated. I was away from home as I normally was, making a film called Creed, when I got the news. And after he passed, I started to listen to old blues records to kind of remind myself of him. And if I did it enough, I would feel like he was there with me, almost like I was conjuring his spirit. And the base of the idea started with that. And when I started to do my research on blues music, specifically the Delta blues music that came out of that Mississippi Delta, I discovered that there's a firm argument to be made that this art form, the Delta blues, is our country's most important contribution to global popular culture. You know, I think it's probably our most important artistic contribution to the world, and it was such a profound discovery that you know, this music made by people who were you know, for all intents and purposes, living under a backbreaking form of American apartheid, you know, denied their humanity on a daily basis, would create something so artistically excellent that it would affect, you know, global culture, you know, from that time forward. And that was what I saw to make. I saw to make something personal and true, but also epic and mythical. You know, I grew up loving horror stories in literature and in cinema. You know, so I combined that as well. You know, I had an appetite for showing more of myself. You know, after having over a decade working in franchise filmmaking. You know, if that makes sense. I was very passionate about those projects, but those projects weren't completely my own. So I was excited to incorporate some elements of genres and styles that I was interested in. But also, the last thing I'll tell you, Amy, was through my research into the music, I learned more about the music industry and the music business as it was built out, and how much the concept of genre is related to racism. You know, the classification of different types of music. You will have a song sung by a black artist, and a white artist can sing that same song in homage to that artist. And the industry would say, hey, this black person's song, we're going to put that in one category. Back then, it might have been called race records. And then this other white musician will invent a new genre to keep a separation here of these groups of people. Maybe we'll call that bluegrass, or we'll call it country, or we'll call it rock and roll. You know, even though it was the same song sung the same way, they were looking at the color of the skin of the person who was singing it and enforcing that apartheid, even through the artistic business model. So I wanted to make a film that was kind of raging against the concept of genre and making the audience constantly question it, even while they were watching it, whether that's genres of music or genres of filmmaking.
This film is definitely genre-bending, genre-shattering, crosses so many genres. And again, it's about vampires. So before we go to this clip, can you set it up for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a clip with a character named Cornbread, who's played by the great Omar Benson Miller, and he was kind of hired to be the bouncer for the juke joint.
That's amazing. I had not seen that clip, by the way, when I had mentioned that. That was just off the dome, but I love that he mentioned that with Amy Goodman. That's wonderful.
Yeah. He had that interview with Amy Goodman. Like, there was the only part that, like, the part of it that went viral, like on Twitter or whatever, was like the part where she's talking about the contract, and people were like, wow, why is this white interviewer questioning his contract? It's like, because that's called interviewing someone. That's journalism. Like, she
so first of all, the fact that the extremely online people don't know who the fuck Amy Goodman is means they said to go offline for forever and have their phones broken.
Oh my God. When Hassan met her in person at DNC for the first time, he fangirled so hard. It was
because Amy Goodman has been in these streets, man. She's been doing it like longer than most of these fools been alive.
She was
way before.
In war zones, for God's sakes. What the fuck has Jake Giger ever done for us? Nothing. But like,
Amy
she's
Goodman
so good.
she's an objective force for good and for investigative journalism. And she has walked the walk her entire life. And talk the talk, yes. And it's crazy that, like, Democracy Now!, right? You know, it was like, it came around like the mid '90s, but it's like often emulated and rarely is it ever at the same level. And it's again, she was way ahead of the
like internet
leftist broadcasting anything. Yeah, I mean, at the time it was just like, I guess it's kind of like, I don't know,
the air.
What they said was granola Fox News for the left at the time, and it was like, first of all, it's insulting, and secondly, it's better than
I think the other thing would be like Air America with like Sam Cedar and Gene Garofalo, like I think that would be also the only
she
thing.
was before Democracy Now! Existed a good 5 years before Air
late
America.
90s,
6 years actually, 7 years. I mean, and the reason why I bring it up too is because she's before it went national, it was a Bay Area thing, right? Like, she started in the Bay Area, like, and this is one of those things that was like, well, of course we have this in the Bay Area. It's like one of the most progressive places on the planet, right?
I love when she has Juan Gonzalez come on.
Yeah, Juan Gonzalez.
He's had a starry like investigative journalism career, but she has him come on and he'll ask like one question and then be like shunted off the screen again, and it's
Yeah,
like I'd love to be like the like kind of like ain't shit co-host for like for like a really impressive show.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking Amy Goodman. You're like, and it's like, it's like when someone's like on screen with Jon Stewart, and it's like, all right, well, yeah, you got Jon Stewart over there though, and that's the person everybody wants to see. And the fact, I mean, I don't know, I love not being online, like terminally online Pripple, but like when I hear about third hand, usually from you guys, about like quote unquote controversies about that, it's just like it's like people are allergic to background research.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like it caused them physical pain.
I haven't like like I try not to look too deeply into stuff. It's just because I know who Amy Goodman is, and I just was
sure. It makes it even more maddening. Where it's like, dude, are you kidding me?
And then there are people who were like who like Amy Goodman, but then they see this one clip at the end, and they're like, "That's it, I'm done." I'm like, stop.
I don't know.
Stop.
She did a really good job in that interview. She like talks through what the actual things on the contract were, and like the point that Ryan Coogler wants to make, or like that he ends up making, is like he's not the first one to get this contract. And there's this
it's what's notable is that it's A, him, B, a black person, C, original non-IP property.
And there's this really amazing point in their interview. Like I think I clipped part of it, but there's this really amazing part of their interview where she's like, "What reasons do you think they didn't give you that everyone's paying attention to you getting this contract?" And he clearly doesn't want to say racism.
Right.
And talk about what you negotiated in making Sinners, the arrangement you had with Warner Brothers. The New York Times reports Warner Brothers agreed to spend $90 million to make Sinners and agreed to give you a cut of gross ticket sales, now rare arrangement known as first dollar gross, meaning before they recoup their costs, you're getting money as well. Warner also agreed, and this is absolutely key, to relinquish its ownership of the film to you after 25 years. The Times reports, quote, some rival film companies were horrified that Warner Brothers would give a film away even after a period of time.
I'll maybe add some context that maybe those articles didn't add. I'm not the first filmmaker to get any of these deals, and Warner Brothers is not the first studio to provide these deals to a filmmaker. So like I think that a lot has been made of my deal in particular. I'm not totally sure why. I have my guesses. But I've been in the industry long enough to know what kind of deals are possible, and nothing about this deal is a new thing.
What's your guesses, Ryan?
It is not a
I think a lot of people felt that she was being antagonistic for some reason.
Yeah. No, I mean, first of all,
she was just curious.
She's doing her show, and she has every right to do it. And she's, we all know what the answer is, right?
Everyone's like, she's being racist, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
By the way, here's young Amy Goodman when I was in high school on the Sally Jesse Raphael show. Notice the Chiron, journalists opposed to war in the Persian Gulf. That would have been the first Gulf War, by the way.
Yeah. And that's the one that, I mean, I guess even more the second one, but you did not oppose as a journalist. Like you were not supposed to.
Nobody did. No, they were not. You were not. Again, she had to say the Sally Jesse Raphael, which even mention who that is. People are like, who? It's like, well,
I remember she was there. That was the peak of like the daytime talk shows. Everyone
also.
Had
young Amy Goodman can get it. Just gonna say.
There's
Amy Goodman, come on, movie night extravaganza.
We love you.
We do.
It's hilarious that Sally Jesse Raphael, she's still alive.
I know.
She's like 96 or something like that. And there's this episode of we know when Viceland was giving Action Bronson like all these opportunities to make random shows. So he had like this warehouse. They gave him a warehouse. They're like, invite whoever you want to this warehouse. And he had Sally Jesse Raphael at like 85 years old hanging out with him high as fuck at this warehouse. And it was
and Sally Jesse Raphael was one of the people. That's great. She's like 90 now, by the way.
He's just high and he's like, yo, Sally Jesse Raphael.
Was it Phil Donahue? He recently passed away, right? He had his own show.
Yeah. He got
Phil Donahue was like the biggest person, like pre-Oprah.
Yeah,
it was Phil Donahue, and there was everybody else. Everybody else.
Just for his criticism of the Iraq War, they relegated him to a black
site. They sent him off to a black site. Exactly.
It would be like if they took Anderson Cooper, which who would never, Anderson Cooper obviously would never oppose the Iraq War or anything else.
Yeah.
But like if they took someone who's like that big and famous and just kind of put them in a black site, you never saw them again.
Yeah. No, and it's crazy to think about because like we think of like literally the person who came up literally after him was Oprah Winfrey, and
look who she gave us though.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that they're interviewing Ryan regarding the like the movie and stuff like that, because like the actors are doing all these fun things, but it's nice to have like you can tell like he's a younger director, like he's doing a lot of these interviews and he's really doing a good job explaining like what inspired him. Puss in Boots inspired him because of the contacts that the vampires wear. I'm like, man, that's unique that you can find inspiration from like an animated movie somehow. Like
it's also like, I mean, he's got a heavy East Oakland accent.
Yeah.
And that's something that you just don't get to hear from people that like have that kind of accent. And like it's that's again you're talking about representation on the screen earlier, Kristina. I mean, I think that's huge. And it's one of those things where it's like I don't think I realized it's like, oh yeah, like he's he just sounds like an East Oakland dude. Like he's not sounds like he went to Harvard or something along those lines, which is not, I mean, he's not saying he's not a brilliant dude, but it's it's that just being out and doing it and making great art and sounding like that's going to give a lot of encouragement to people that maybe never even thought about making movies before, and that's huge. In the same way that he's calling out all these other people that inspired him, right? So this is like an artistic inspiration thing.
I'm trying to think for a minute, maybe what I'd be inspired by.
Well, you'd have to write it first, I think, to know.
Yeah.
It's a good first step. Yeah.
One part. I don't know.
There was this I was watching this. There's like this British.
We'll work on the rest.
There was like this
Technicolor would be the intro from Wizard of Oz.
There's like this British woman that was like interviewing him, like this younger British woman that was like trying to like parse out like the leftist politics behind this movie. And Ryan Coogler clearly like wasn't really having it because she was like bringing up all these topics that like he clearly hadn't like thought about when he was writing it or whatever. And he was like, I don't know, I'm just like she was talking way more than him. And then he's like, well, he's like, well, in terms of like the politics, like I'm from Oakland, and she clearly didn't know what he meant. And it was it's like watching two people pass each other in the night.
Well, and what's crazy too, and it's one of the things I used to get so mad when we would people like, oh, Replicator from San Francisco. It's like, no, man, we're from Oakland. There's a distinct difference, and that's no shade to San Francisco, but it is a different vibe entirely. Oakland is a working class city. And like the vibes could not be more different. And that's not to say SF isn't great. It's just not the same thing. They're not the same place. And like there is a certain pugnacious attitude when you come from Oakland, man. First of all anyone knows about you is that crime is high. Like it isn't literally every other in any big city, right?
But that's probably going down now.
But that's the only frame that people know. And I'm telling you from personal experience, that's the only frame that people know. And certain people will be like, "Oh, what a hellhole!" I'm like, "How dare you fucking say that?"
There's more crime in South Carolina in general than there is in Oakland. I guarantee you.
Sure, but like, why do you think that frame? Let me Amy Goodman you. Why do you think that frame is that way? Any ideas? Anything you want to say? Yeah, no.
I feel like the perception is like, I mean, but of course I'm like very, very different. Like I feel like enough stuff lately has come out like with Black Panther kind of vibes to it that it's like, like that part of history of Oakland is being remembered now too. Like
which is amazing.
A hotbed.
When I saw
60s.
the freaking the block where Killmonger lives on West Oakland, I was like, oh my god, I never thought I'd see that block like on like a movie screen, like let alone at the Grand Lake Theater for the premiere, which is like a big theater in Oakland. That's like, shows all the cool movies and stuff. And it's something that I can only explain it like how like Scorsese like does all these New York shout outs and stuff like that, New York thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But imagine getting like 1/1000th of those ever. Right. And so that's like one of those things that it's really wonderful to see someone coming from such a vibrant artistic community that always gets looked over, that has the juice, that has the sauce, and is, makes himself a seat at the table and just keeps winning.
Yeah.
You love to see it.
In terms of Ryan Coogler also like, helping other artists, Judas and the Black Messiah. He was the producer for that. When that movie came out, and
that's right.
Taka King producer or whatever directed it. But like that's like another kind of the same kind of milieu, I guess, that that Ryan Coogler's made for himself. I mean, especially even like the actors, right? Like,
there's a certain, and some people have problems with that movie, and okay, fine, whatever. But the point of fact is that like, and I say that as someone, I think, no names mentioned. I say that as someone that, I think Spike Lee is a masterful filmmaker and also frequently full of crap too.
Yeah.
And who has made some dreadfully bad movies as well, but has made some masterpieces. But look, man, so Steven Spielberg. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ. That guy, it's fine. It doesn't bother me.
That guy Shaka King was like a student of Spike Lee too. Like,
I believe it. I mean, Spike Lee's an interesting guy. It's crazy the only one we've ever covered is Inside Man, which is, by the way, one of my favorites of his.
I mean, I love Do the Right Thing. Like, I think Do the Right Thing.
Oh, it's great. It's like incredible. It's a fucking astounding movie. But like, I think, Spike is. It's a rare case where he's over criticized in some cases and massively under criticized in others. And like, it's funny how that works. And also it was totally obnoxious that the Black Klansman came out the same year as Sorry to Bother You and Blind Spotting, because it's like that was like, oh no, this is the black movie of the year. I'm like, well, you can have more than one.
Yeah, we're slowly getting there.
Like, it's like, what? There's a quota. What is this? 1943? I mean, come on, man. What are we doing?
Did they even have black films in 1943?
Common. They both got that dog in them.
Look, just saying.
She's gotta have it. They tried to remade
Spike Lee movies.
They remade She's Gotta Have It as like a Netflix show, right?
Or did they?
Yeah,
oh, God.
a while back.
But then again,
that was an early one of their originals or whatever.
I love The Five Bloods, which came out not that long ago. I thought that was a really great movie. And by the way, one of the best people in it, Delroy Lindo. Also in the movie Sinners, tonight movie, bringing it back to Sinners. Delroy Lindo is so great in this. Like, his character is so badass. But he brings such a deep humanity to it. And it's like, and that's something I love. That everyone's kind of like, nobody's like this perfect shining, Mary Sue kind of figure. Everybody's got like flaws. Everybody has their own agendas, their own like, kind of like sets of preconceptions. And then you get really engrossed in it. And then like, the whole freaking game board gets overturned when the vampires show up.
I mean, I think that like, in general, right? Like Ryan Coogler, like he's got a strong commitment to nuance in his characters.
Absolutely.
And in filmmaking. Yeah. Like even watching Fruitvale Station and like his characterization of like Oscar Grant, like perfect person, obviously not, kind of a fuck up, in his daily life. But
he deserved to get got the way he got? Yeah. No, of course not. Nobody deserves that.
And it's like you watch it and you're like, I know people that it's like they're trying hard, they're good-hearted, they're trying really hard, but like it just keeps getting fucked up, and like they have anger problems, they have mental health problems, they have problems with all these different things, and it's like, and then he gets blown away at the end, and you're like, but he didn't deserve that. Like, that's not the fate. Like maybe like a few weeks of rehab at some point later, but like that's the most he deserved.
What did we think about the little post? Like, some people were starting to leave. I'm like, nah, I feel like this has a post-credit scene.
The post-credit scenes, it's practically like another movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I was like, Crossroads, is that you?
Buddy Guy, the
what
really
a cool
famous blues guitarist, plays the old version of Shemmy. You can tell he watched like The Shining or something because of the way that like the vampire
heard
Shammy.
Adam Sandler say Chalamet or something like that. Like,
I mean, how rad is it that he actually got Buddy Guy, an old blues guy, to play like the old blues guy, right? And then
he shot those scenes first because of Buddy Guy's age,
because he's like 100,000 years old. Yeah, exactly.
He's been around a while, I just love the '90s look when Michael B. Jordan came in dressed like that. I'm like,
Can I tell you, like, and this is why I was talking about this in the 70mm Discord, that it was like, look, I don't want them to reboot The Hunger, but if they did, it's those two, and it's like late '80s, early '90s.
Look at.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Look at Buddy Guy's look when he still had his hair and he still had.
Yeah. That's what's up.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, they're that like that look that they're sporting is great. And it's like the rare time you're like, wow, I would actually like to see like what is her life like? What after
Yeah, I'm like
whatever.
1992.
What are
Let's
they up
go.
to? Yeah, exactly.
like hello, I want to see a movie about, because this movie takes place like within like a 24-hour time period. I'm like, these two have gone through decades as being vampires. Let's do like a one-up like HBO Max series about those two, what they've been up to.
They're dressed like it's still the 90s.
Yeah, or like every decade, how they changed. It's kind of like when Agatha was trying to get all the witches, make a covenant. They showed her style throughout the decades.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm like, yeah, I want to see what they look like in the 60s or the 70s. Like she probably had that long straight hair. Like
they're gonna put an afro, like a fake afro, like clearly wigged afro on Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah,
I just kept thinking, now this is a story all about my life. When I saw Michael B. Jordan, I'm like, he's totally dressed up like Will Smith. Fresh Prince.
Well, and I couldn't help wondering too, like, because they're offering to like, hey, we'll make you a vampire, and you could just basically keep making music and tour for forever.
I'm too old to be a vampire, bitch.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, but would he be like 94, or would he be like, like,
I think
because his Interview with a Vampire rules, where you're, Kirsten Dunst stuck as a preteen for forever. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you have to stay the age that you get bitten, right? Because they just drain your blood and then you're a vampire, and it's like, if you're like, oh, my knees still hurt.
Yeah, I still got to take Lipitor every day.
I still got osteoporosis. What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm the only vampire that needs some icy hot to go hunt my prey.
He accidentally kills his cousin. He accidentally kills his cousin because his blood pressure is too high at that age. So his blood, and he's like, oh, my heart.
What would have been cool though is having like Ralph Macchio be like one of the musicians on stage for them as like a nod to Crossroads, because people forget about that fucking movie.
I'm a hashtag never forget for Crossroads, but like, I mean, it's insane movie, but
we talk. I think
it's already like 7. We did. We did. That's right.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. That was actually before I was on as a regular, I think, even. But
I don't even remember what show that was.
I don't remember either. It wasn't this show.
It might have been on Kenzo's YouTube channel.
Yeah, it was on somebody's show, and we talked about Crossroads. It's like, hell yeah, I'll talk about Crossroads. Let's go. But it's already so like I feel sorry for people, that like leave when the credits start to roll, and they try to like, I don't know, like, look, I'm not trying to job shame people, but I feel like the cleaners come in like the second the credits start rolling now, and it's like, well, what if you actually want to sit through the credits? Not in my theater,
thankfully. Like when I saw Thunderbolts last night, there was like a girl sitting next to me because we had to stay seats, and she was about to get up. I literally did this. Sit back down. This is a Marvel movie. There's gonna be post-credit scenes.
Damn, she's like, this doesn't play.
She was like, I was assaulted by some girl tonight. When
like, sit back down. What are you doing?
Anyway,
it's a infuriating thing when you have a feeling there's
Milwaukee County. They come like boom, second credits start rolling. They're there like
you gotta do
up,
something.
And I'm like, you can do it. I was like, you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna sit in this chair until I'm ready to leave.
Hey,
like,
clean up around me. God damn it.
I saw the Tom Cruise post where he posed in front of the Sinners poster and was like, hey, if you're watching the movie Sinners, which I love, congrats to everybody. Stay in the movie theater. There's an awesome post-credit scene, and I assume that like Tom Cruise is gonna pop up in the post-credit scene.
I will give Tom Cruise this. He might be a piece of shit Scientologist, but he loves the theater. Like he loves respecting other people's work, and I'll give him that. He's really trying to help people go back to the movies and all that. I will give that. I will give him that.
I would love, like, I could just imagine Tom Cruise just being a vampire.
What's that?
He was freaking was.
Yeah, I'm saying like
an actual Tom Cruise.
You find out Tom Cruise is an actual vampire in real life.
Makes sense. That's been a conspiracy theory for decades.
I could see you finding out Tom Cruise is like an ancient guy that was like in every generation's had a Tom Cruise.
Right, exactly.
Vampire.
But it's funny that for a while Tom Cruise was like the most famous.
Yeah, he was the
vampire. That's why that's a funny statement.
Well, anyway, that's why he got bitten on set for Interview with the Vampire.
That's why he does his own stunts. Yeah. He's not afraid of getting hurt.
Yeah, he can do it.
About it.
Tom Cruise, your head fell out. It'll regenerate.
He must be a daywalker though. He's like running around doing whatever. It doesn't matter.
Got that daylight ring.
Letterboxd, of course, is a place for film lovers to talk at, with, and to each other about the movies they love, maybe the movies that they didn't love, maybe the movies that they were just astounded were as entertaining as this one. That's just an earnest reading of that, by the way. Don't have smart ass to say. And of course, it's a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to chime and opine. Everyone gets to have their say, not just Siskel's and Eberts of the world. And, of course, all of this is best expressed succinctly for the purpose of this bit, where weekly I collect the most entertaining of these Letterboxd reviews and put them up for Forrest and the panel to react to laugh at and with. And these are the Letterboxd one-liners for sinners. Let's go. Oh my God, Coogler casting his blank check on a vampire dance battle movie about why you should never trust the Irish. I'm levitating right now.
That was literally my first takeaway watching it. Was like, damn, so this is all the Irish's fault. Luck of the Irish, I'm telling you.
Hey, everybody.
Love that Disney movie.
Why didn't Sammy ask the ghost from the future to help fight the vampires? Is he stupid?
like, hey, y'all want to stick around maybe and help out? And they're like,
yeah. Hey, Bootsy
no.
Collins, you want to come over here with that flamethrower or what?
Yeah.
He's like, actually, I have a DJ gig that I have to do after this.
Right, exactly. It's a paid gig, bro. Are you taking the blue Michael B. Jordan pill or the red Michael B. Jordan pill?
It's the Matrix, but starring Michael B. Jordan.
One's a dedicated wife guy, and the other crap.
Only 3.5 stars. What the fuck?
I'm taking whichever one gets to blow away clan members.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. How do we not even talk about that scene? That was like, because honestly, at that point, I was like, there has to be some kind of thing with the clan, right? There has to be. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, there is. And then you get the little mini Rambo scene.
Hashtag Remick was right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing. Like, he's a Killmonger type character.
Yeah,
that's true.
But for Irish folks. Irish monger.
Demonic assimilist Irish step dancing is such a good idea, dude. That's such an awesome thing to put in a movie. Shit.
I was getting down.
No, it is. It is really cool.
Peace and harmony,
the thing
cinematic is overused, but that's a deeply cinematic scene. Of course, it's cinematic. It's a fucking movie, you retard.
There's like a thing that the Irish do with their folk music, and especially like in the Delta and stuff, like Black folks did with their folk music too, where it's either commemorating something like an important event, right? Warning people about something like like don't do this or whatever because
don't let the Irish vampires in.
Yeah, no, but like it's like warning people about something that catastrophic, commemorating a day or a time or a place. Like these things that they use folk music for in at that time are like very similar. Like there's not pointing that out. And there's a quote that I saw with Ryan Coogler where he was saying like the two groups most likely to like dance and party at a funeral, right? Like use that as a time to celebrate somebody rather than kind of doing the austere like sitting there and like not just being like, wow, I'm sad that this person's gone. Black folks and the Irish.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. If someone I had my sister in charge of my funeral playlist. I'm like, get the DJ going. You know what the place is. Get some Backstreet Boys.
I was literally at a funeral on Saturday, and it was not as joyful as all that. But
I know that's why I think. But we're doing it wrong. That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let the white one in.
Just this one. He's one of the good ones.
The level of offense that Remick takes when he realizes like, oh, it's because of my, oh, really?
Because of what? Why?
That's it. When they're talking about Mary in that part where they're like, is she white or something? The only thing I could think of was that scene. She's white.
He's white. Yeah, exactly.
We're never leaving that movie.
But like,
that's the only thing we're ever gonna remember it for.
I think obviously Black audiences would get it immediately, but like it's a big not explaining the Jim Crow thing, right? Like Jim Crow is just a fact of life in this movie, like because obviously the characters wouldn't be like that's because of Jim Crow, like that's just it's just the racial apartheid that they live under. So like there's moments where these rules I like that they didn't just go like, oh, you can't talk to a white person because of Jim Crow. It's like,
well, again, that's the showing rather than telling you.
Martin Luther King would be offended because Remick was being judged by the color of his skin, but not by the judgment of his character.
Not by the content of his character, which I think he has a lot of good attributes, but I'm not quite. I mean, it depends on what happens after this. Remick had a dream.
Exactly. Just eat the damn garlic.
I liked that bit. I think that they did a very good introducing the garlic as like a look. We all have to try to eat this garlic because, and then having the Delroy Lindo character
like a trust test.
Just start throwing up because he's just drunk.
He's just like it's just
totally like great too. We didn't really talk about. He's so good.
Well, I tried to bring it up like 3 times, but including pivoting from Spike Lee, which I eloquently did with the Five Bloods, who's also great, and he's a great guy. That like he's any movie he's in, he's like badass in, and like never
funny.
Usually like relegated to that guy status. But
good comic relief.
He's super good in this. Great character.
Might be drunk, but whatever.
Even better in its way as a character. You know,
I was dying when he's tempting him away from the other bar with the Irish beer, and he's like, whoa, what's that now? And he's like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's just an Irish beer.
He's corn alcohol. Gross. Absolutely fantastic. Vampire Hailee Steinfield, bite me next.
I'm never.
Amen.
I'm never gonna get over the line.
Conan, you wrote this. What the hell?
I'm just never gonna get over the line. Y'all robbing trains and banks, but you can't steal this pussy for one night.
I know that's banging line.
Like I feel like I'll be like 60 and still thinking about that line.
Yeah. We come to this place for magic. That's a friend of the show, Reagan Bush, currently out on tour with Chat Pile right now in Europe.
This is like one of the first movies in a while that I felt like a transcendent feeling watching it in theaters at different points. Like the transition between scenes, like I felt like I was levitating out of my body.
Same.
We gotta get Randy back on at some point. Back. They're real freaking busy right now though. They just did like 2 U.S. tours, doing a European tour. They're going for it, man.
I don't get his new like these podcasting that he does where he plays like a character.
You know what? Peace and love. I don't either. I love him to death though. There's
no explained context for it either. He just puts the reels up on Instagram.
And also, but he's one of those guys that I wouldn't say we agree like all the time, but I think he's always got something interesting to say, and he's a deep lover of film, and I like talking movies with him quite a bit. And I told him next time we let him pick the movie because I think I forced New Nightmare on him. There's nothing more evil than river dancing. Throw vampirism in the mix, and you're looking at a truly cursed evening.
Excuse me, Lord of the Dance would be offended by this.
There was this thing I used to like when I was first getting
the Letterboxd.
When I was first getting into editing, like when I was first like experimenting with it in high school, there was like one of the first when I was like playing around with it on my own, like one of the things I remember doing is there was this video of river dancing, and I kept trying to find clips that would like or music that would go with it, and I tried like 30 different things, and literally it was just river dancing to dubstep, river dancing to like crazy rock and roll, river dancing to, and like I was like, damn, this all somehow goes with. If you started at different points, like you can make people river dance to anything.
Oh yeah.
There's a you stupid kids will dance to anything. I think it was the Dead Milkman. So, but you stupid kids will river dance to anything.
Oh, yeah.
This is by the way, this real quick from the chat. To be fair, let the white one in T-shirt is $1 million idea. I agree.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's be
we Graboid. It's literally stolen valor. Graboid's review, but whatever. I know that guy, so I'll talk to him. Ladies and gentlemen, the motherfucking guitar.
Yeah.
It's the saddest reveal of all time where you spent the whole movie thinking it's like this legendary guitar. They're like, all right, I'm in love with you. It was my dad's guitar.
It's just my dad's guitar. That's all it is.
And we murdered him.
Try to go after him, not his son. Okay, just saying.
Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for sinners. Please, please, please remember to follow the show, Movie Night Extravaganza, at Movie Night Extra, on our Letterboxd HQ account, where we post up stories of the great movies that we cover on here, as well as attendant clips, short-form content, all that great stuff there on the popular Letterboxd platform. Fellowship and love over there, always Flacco. Forrest is reviewing stuff for this show and for lots more. You should just watch Creed for the hell of it. I'm not even kidding. I think you'd really dig it because it's a great movie. That's why I think you'd dig it. But especially since you're going on a cool journey.
I've always meant to, and then like it just it's like one of those things that like always. Because I remember seeing a bunch of the scenes of it, and I've always meant to like watch the whole thing, and then it somehow just slips my mind every time.
It's really good. It's really good, and like it was astounding at the time, but like now it'd be interesting to see your take on it based on now what's come after it. But anyway, follow him for his movie journey on Letterboxd. I of course like the folks that make the blues at Conan Neutron. You can follow me for the Highbrow, the Midbrow, the Populous Fair Criterion Challenge all the way, baby. I'm ahead of pace somehow. I don't know how. Let's see how I am after tour. We'll see, but I'm still doing well. Still doing all on it. So follow me along for that. I'm gonna log a few more this weekend. I think I'm not doing anything crazy. So follow me for all that good business. It's a good time. Kristina.
I didn't think on purpose so you would say it.
Stick your tongue in my coos. They can't say that, can they? Can they?
Sorry, Jason Statham.
Sorry, listen, mate. I need you to stick your tongue in my coos.
Boy, bird, stick your tongue in my coos.
I was like, I remember looking it up. Like, I was looking for all this like for female genitalia that came out. And I'm like, literally, it's just female genitalia. That's what it just means. You don't have to say anything else. Like, okay,
right.
no, okay, cool.
Great. Yeah.
Well, because I remember in The Sopranos, the guy's name was Cusimano, and they're making fun of it. And they're like, hey, Cooge.
Whose woman's pussy you looking tonight? Like, like what's going on here?
I'm Kristina on Letterboxd, so you can see all the stuff that she's logging, including this movie.
logging Thunderbolts.
And there you go. And
So
you can see what she's watching over there over on Letterboxd. Let's hit it with the plugs. Stick your tongue in my plugs.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and then hit the bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. And we'd humbly request that you watch the video to the end, because it helps us with the algorithm and helps more film fans to discover the show. We're also monetized. If you want to get your chat questions definitely read on stream, you can always send us a super chat, which will help us keep the show going. Every cent helps. If you're watching on Twitch, you can gift us a free sub on Amazon Prime with your Prime membership, but getting subs on Twitch is always appreciated, and it helps to follow us on there as well. We also have an audio feed, which is available wherever you download podcasts, if you prefer to listen to podcasts rather than watch the stream. That's updated usually the same day we stream, but watching on YouTube and Twitch is the best way to get the show first, live as it happens. If you want to support us with a monthly donation and get access to all of our after parties forever, which go patron only after we do them, you can become a patron at patreon.com/movie night extra. Link is in the description for that. It really helps us keep the show going since we do have some expenses to make this happen. We also have a Discord community. Link is in the description for that. We sometimes watch movies we cover on there. We get into conversations about everything from film to TV shows to related podcasts. We even have a Discord channel for memes. It's really fun on there. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads. You connect with us on all of those. Talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, we recently made a TikTok at Movie Night Extra where we're putting up short form clips from the episodes. Okay, passing this to Conan so he can tell you about his music and this week's Protonic Reversal. Conan, who's on Protonic this week?
Yes. I will not tell you because it's a surprise, but I will say it to somebody that I've been wanting to have on since I started the show, and we'll leave it at that.
Wait, me? Are you?
It's Kristina Oakes. Wow. Wow. All right.
You did.
Crazy.
Thank you.
This week was Nina Nasaja, the incredible Nina Nasaja. There's a new Jolie Lade record, which is great. And so she's a firecracker. Love talking to her. She's awesome. Prodigious solo career. One of John Peele's favorite artists. One of Steve Albini's favorite artists. I think Riderless Horse is one of the all-time great bummer records. of all time. So tune in for that. Patrons right now, $1 a month advance access, patreon.com/Protonic I got possibly 3, but definitely 2 more episodes before another short hiatus for Protonic because I'm going to be on tour. So Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, touring the U.S., as mentioned before. You can find out all about it. Oh, also, it's Bandcamp Friday, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. We see the full share of money if you buy digital or LPs, CDs, T-shirts, anything like that today. It's a great day to do it. It's one of the few consistent streams of revenue in this whole like making music thing, so it's much appreciated. Here's the great tour poster with the same kaiju robot guy from the Japan tour getting attacked by raccoons this time. And you can see the coming up in like under 2 weeks, actually. We got Washington, D.C., we got Boston, Providence, New York, Philadelphia, Youngstown, Detroit, Chicago, Caterwall, Minneapolis, Sioux City, Rapid City, Casper, Missoula, Boise, Bend, Reno, Bend, Seattle, Portland, Oakland, Palmdale, L.A., and San Diego. So we're going to be out for about 3 weeks. Rocking the nation. Any fans of the show in any of those cities, let me know. If I can, I'll put you on the guest list. Just hit me up. Would love to meet up with folks that enjoy the show. It's happened before in some of the most unlikely places you might imagine. And just tell a friend. If you're into the band, of course, the new record, Way of the Neutron, looks like this.
Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who.
We may have a new video out before we leave. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that works. And of course, Caterwall, as mentioned, 4 days in Minneapolis. Great bands. May 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th in the month. If you're a remote fan, if you're a fan of any kind of noisy music and that kind of thing, it's a great time. So you should come out to that. Caterwall.org. We have like single day posters coming out relatively soon, I think, too. I haven't been paying that close attention, frankly. And I got a couple guest appearances on other shows that are coming up. Nothing's been released immediately, but some pretty cool stuff. So just keep appraised. There's a lot of Neutron stuff going on, and what I don't want to hear from cities that we're playing is like, hey, when are you coming to blank? And like we just played there, because that seems to happen every time, no matter what I do. And it's the most frustrating thing that it's a modern problem for sure. But we're covering a lot of ground. We're literally going coast to coast this time, and everywhere but the South, which is going to be in the fall. So we will be out and about, as our Canadian friends might say.
Oh, Conan, I should try to get your band to play on a Thursday in Aiken, amp up the alley. That'd be cool.
Okay, I think
all the old folks are like, what is this?
I mean, look, like we should talk. Let's talk to my agent. Yeah. But we are playing in Atlanta. I just don't know if it's going to be a Friday or Saturday, because I'm waiting to hear about this other thing. We're playing a festival in Atlanta in November. I think it's the week before Thanksgiving. Maybe it's not announced yet, but we're gonna probably do some other area stuff around that time too. So we can make it happen. I know a guy. I'm the guy.
Yeah, you're the guy.
Kristina, what do you got?
Well, this overnight grind I've been doing has been pulling off. My average viewership out of 75 jumped from 12 to 15, now to almost 22, because more of the overnight streamers are more friendly to Ray than everyone else. And plus, I guess it's just the right timing that I start streaming. I don't know. But we're doing Shadow Saturday. We are finally hearing Dave Selby speak as Quentin Collins, because we're back in 1897. People are in brownface doing Romani stereotypes. It's great. The kids are possessed again.
we love a good stereotype, don't we, folks?
Yeah. So it's getting interesting. Barnabas is back to being a vampire, because every time he travels back, he's back to being a vampire, because that's just how it works. It's getting quite interesting. I was doing some new stuff. I did the Backstreet Boys Red Stagecoach, which is so cool. Get the dance to that, as always. Probably on Sunday, for Sunday Fun Day, it's got probably my full reaction to that 10-hour-long debate between Hassan Piker and Ethan Klein, which Hassan got him to admit that his wife is a war criminal and a terrorist for being in the IDF. Yeah, you murdered babies. What the hell? So that's going to be interesting. Of course, there's going to be more like pop culture, fun stuff to do, and reviewing Thunderbolts and all that jazz. So it's fun. I wish my Atlanta cosplay came because I want to do a booth this weekend. But with Trump's tariffs, I feel like it's going to be a few months before my shit gets, arrives or whatever.
Yeah, I heard there's like all these ports are like empty because they're not bringing stuff over. It's like
and people are mad that Temu's prices and Shein's prices have gone up by like 400%. I'm like, yes. And all the white women are like, I can't believe this. I'm like, you voted for this. You no longer can buy cheap shit anymore. Take that.
I mean, I feel like a lot of that shit was not great to buy anyway.
I just put my clothes in a dryer. It's fine. They're fine. It's cool. That's how I'm doing my Rio cosplay to get together. Woohoo. So, yeah, that's all I got really going. Also, if you watch my stream, please send tips because my mom and I need rent money, and
I heard that as send tits, which I didn't know what you said, but
I mean,
I'm almost out of tits.
Because my mom and I don't have any houses next week, so that kind of sucks. We crammed in all of our work in 3 days, so it's like
you're running low on tits. I get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cluster headaches are a bitch. That's what I have to say.
Tit shelves are empty.
Exactly. It's a supply and demand issue. Yeah.
Yep.
So after party.
Yeah.
We'll let Kristina go wild on Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Well, friend of the show, Allie, just dropped her Letterboxd review for Sinners, which is 5 stars.
Woohoo!
It's hard not to like do it like this movie was crazy. Like
I feel like pretentious, contrarian assholes are giving. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You'd like
even they seem even some of the ones that some of the people we know that are kind of contrarian assholes seem to be digging this.
Yeah.
Of course, when it'll hit critical mass and so many people will like it, then they'll turn around and be like, "This is the worst movie I ever saw." But
it happens within like it usually happens within like the weekend after it drops too. But it's been like 2 weeks now. No one's done that yet. I'm like, okay, I think this one might be immune to that.
I'm surprised there haven't been any like culture war takes on it. I'm glad there aren't, and I hope.
Yeah, we're the because they're focused on Star Wars having rape under the Empire and all that weird stuff. But they're glad that Thunderbolts is not woke.
I agree that Darth Vader would never allow rape.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but I'm over here. But I'll talk more about that in my Thunderbolts review about like the weird.
Say what you will about him. He was nothing if not a feminist.
You're gonna talk more about Darth Vader, and is he in Thunderbolts too?
He's equal opportunity killer.
They're gonna bring Darth Vader into the MCU.
I guess we can talk about it in the after party because I am caught up on Andor. But I love that Adria Arjona, who is awesome and was great in Hitman, she's actually getting be something other than just like stupendously beautiful. She's actually getting to do a good role. Like that Bix character is great. And unfortunately, knowing how Rogue One turns out is one of those things where it's like you don't get too attached because it's like I already know how this story ends. So, which can we announce that yet or no? Did we announce it already? I don't remember.
I'm trying to figure out a date for her to come on. I guess she has to go to a wedding on the day that I asked if she wanted to do it. So, yeah, at some point in the future, we can do it. Yeah,
we're gonna do a Rogue One in June. It's gonna be the first Star Wars that we've done in this television show,
and the great one too, the best one, honestly.
Yeah, it's certainly the best, the recent one.
Either June or July. I sent her if she wants to do the first week of July because I guess the last week of June she's going to a wedding.
Yeah. Also, Taylor Rand's like one of my tweets, so maybe we should ask her to come on.
I want to ask every famous and interesting seeming person
that follows us. Be like, can you come on this podcast, please?
But they're yeah. So it's
my pitch to them is going to be Fellowship and Love. Come on, Fellowship and Love.
It's going to be Jessica Burbank who's going to be on for Rogue One. That's as it stands right now. I guess it's not actually
lover of makeup and curly hair, so that's great.
Yeah,
he's just like me for real.
But yeah, so
after party.
Final thoughts.
Okay, so this movie is a masterpiece. This is like Ryan Coogler's, like opus, like man opus. Like it's so good. I mean, I do see him coming out with more, blockbuster successes in the future. Maybe do a few more like indie stuff. But everything about this film was surprising. Like the trailer obviously did not give too much away. I cannot recommend this film enough. Like the editing, the cinematography, the sequences, how it was filmed, the performances. Michael B. Jordan should get 2 Oscars. Best Supporting and
There
Best
you go.
Lead for playing those
Yeah.
twins. Yeah.
It'd
That's all I
be
have to
funny.
say.
It'd be funny if they did. They nominated him twice. I mean, well, he did play 2 roles.
Yeah. That'd be so funny.
Krayshawn actually is from Oakland and played in like the Trash Woman and stuff, who were like in a Nestor's Records band.
Actually, Krayshawn is.
Yeah, I thought that was the joke that Steve was making.
Yeah. She was a notable Bay Area personality before that song hit big. But
One big room full of bad bitches.
yeah,
Conan, final
Yes.
thought.
I think we can all agree Gucci. Yeah, look, we've said it all on this, right? This is an outright treasure of a film. It's an honest to goodness ambitious and original blockbuster that it hits on every level, and immediately it's rocketed to one of my favorites of the year. I think it's chaotic but vibrant. It's emotional and fun. It's very unapologetically black. I think it references and improves on things like From Dusk Till Dawn, I Am Legend, any of the iterations, Hateful Eight, The Thing, and like a lot of their genre fare as well. I think it's pretty amazing that Michael B. Jordan pulled off playing twin brothers, 2 roles, and managed to make them distinctive and notable performances both. Definitely a masterclass in acting. Delroy Lindo, absolutely a badass up there. Just completely underrated as an actor. There's a very big division between the first and second part, but it doesn't seem like is it exquisite corpse style where it's like, you start one drawing and someone else finishes the drawing. It seems it also flow natural may not be the right word to use, but it flows well enough to it. And I do love that we don't have that because it can only be done so many times. The what do we know about vampires thing in there? Because again, it's the early 1900s. They wouldn't know that anyway. So I think that's a very smart way to sort of sidestep that. Big genre movie. I love a genre movie that takes big swings. I talk about it all the time, and that the fact that it pulls out a little high art now and again without just spraying up its own ass, really great. And just as a notable thing, I did sell a bunch of. I classified them as C or third tier music items for pocket money the week that I saw it. So the stakes, such as they are, were higher for me for this to be good because I'm like, this better be good because I don't have a lot of money right now. And it absolutely was. The hype is very real. And I think it's a treat for the cinephile and the movie populace both, of which I am both.
It's crazy that he's like, this is my most personal project to date, and it's like a vampire movie.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love it. I mean, look, just like me for real, right? Great.
I like that, like, even though blues is it's a black art form that deserves recognition for being a black art form because of how much theft has gone into like the concept of these things. I like this movie. Doesn't feel like it was gatekeeping like that dynamic of it. Like it feels like it's very honest about the way that culture travels through all of these different groups that we don't even think about when we think about the Mississippi Delta. Like who thinks about like the local Chinese immigrants in the Mississippi Delta, like paying tribute to them and the Choctaw and the Irish. Like
it's a very smart movie, and I love something that can go just big entertaining populism, but it's a very empathetic movie in a lot of ways, and in ways that actually makes you think about that nature of connection, big time.
Yeah.
And again, the fact that if your options are picking cotton or being a vampire, geez.
I want to be young forever.
Yeah, you can just look. There's plenty of a-holes you can snack on. It's fine,
Yeah.
I love how Smoke. He's like, nope, third option. I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
He's just machine gunning down all the clan members.
Basically clearing that county out of all its token racists.
That was
he did a good. He did what Reva couldn't do.
I would totally see a movie like that. By the way, like a Rambo style,
killing clan members. Yeah,
killing clan members. Period piece. Action movie.
It feels like very Django Unchained inspired, right? Like
sure.
He has his gun, like it's like, but I mean, like a later date than that movie, obviously. But I feel like there are points in this where I was like, oh, he's definitely done like a Tarantino watch through, very recently. Yeah.
I mean, From Dusk Till Dawn. Everyone said that's like this part, one part From Dusk Till Dawn, one part whatever other movie people want to come up with.
Yeah. Well, it's one part Dusk Till Dawn, one part Salem Plot. But like I
was thinking more like The Thing too. I mean, that's why I
Yeah.
mentioned it, you know, and Hateful Eight, and like, there's, yeah, it's not just what, like, there's a lot of movies you can just reduce to.
Oh yeah.
It's
no,
this,
but I
right?
like that he's very open about the fact that he's been inspired by all these. Like,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you know, all movies are really inspired by other movies. Like, there's nobody that's ever come up with something that's like, I'm the first one to ever come up with this entire movie. Like, and I like when filmmakers are very referential to the people that they're, you know.
And also, who's
by.
thinking about Salem's Lot in 2025? I mean, they attempted to like remake it. It was like,
Yeah.
totally, like,
How many
mid.
times? It was not
Yeah,
good.
and
Wait, wasn't Rob Lowe in that one?
Yes, I believe so. Yes. Yeah, I mean, great. Just like, what a treat to be like, yeah, that seems like that'll be good. To be like, oh wow, that was great. When so often it's the other way around, right?
The only guy that's
oh.
thinking about Salem's Lot in 2025 besides Ryan Coogler, Eminem, it's like, I will not grow old in Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
There it is.
He's gonna lose himself in the music the moment.
There's some great Anthony Mackie related memes that have come out recently for that.
Yeah,
All
Sam
right,
and
well,
Bucky are now officially divorced.
We're gonna jump on over in about 10 minutes to
talk about Thunderbolt.
That's so stupid.
That's what Mary was. You know, Mary was Salem's Lot.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
This is somebody got the slot. What are you talking about?
She's white.
No, her mama's daddy was half black. Forrest.
So join us in a free flowing discussion. You know, maybe we'll talk some Andor. Maybe whatever else comes to
Whatever
mind.
me and Conan watched this week.
I want someone to explain to Tom Hanks and Elvis that the like, no, she's not white. Her her grandfather is
actually
she's 12%
one drop.
Is what we're saying. One drop rule.
All right.
Nice. Well, wow, that's what we're ending on, huh? Okay.
Yeah,
great.
we're gonna end up
in the after party. Sure.
Blood. I love it. You love it. Yummy.